Is that Hassan there, yeah?
Hassan is here.
Yep.
We are
Hassan,
live, guys.
Hassan,
We
did
are
you watch it?
Nah.
What do you
Oh,
mean you
okay.
didn't watch it, Hassan? What do you mean you didn't watch it?
Because I feel like I've seen this with Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk and all those guys.
No, it wasn't as stupid as those ones. If I'm honest. That Charlie Kirk, I want to kick him in the face.
It was a bit more direct, put it that way. Yo, JM, do you want to start in that order that you sent me? Yeah.
Sorry?
Do you want to start on the order that you sent me?
No. Go in time order. So I kind of went past a bit. So go in the time order.
Okay.
So like there's 100 minutes. I think
because
there's one.
yeah, because I wrote down some timestamps and
You just put it the earliest to the latest.
Okay. Hold on a second. Yeah, I would say this was a bit different from the whole Charlie Kirk and all of those guys.
Are we live?
Yes, we are live, bro.
Oh wow.
What's the conversation going live? You know, of course we are going to be breaking it down, but yeah, we are live. Hold on a second, guys. Yeah, I would say Thingy was a bit more direct. What's his name? Myron on this one. But I watched the entire thing. I enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I thought you would.
Yeah, but I did have some complaints. And I want to get you guys' opinion on it, of course. All right. If I'm gonna go with your timestamps, bro, and I would say this would be the first one. And
you could go a couple of minutes back if you just like 2 minutes back.
Yeah. I've noticed that. I noticed that as well. Can you guys see the screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
That's
Boom.
how you make money, and that's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah.
But I
think it's this one here. Then it starts off with this one.
I mean, I guess we have to do a bit of background. I think it's pretty self-evident what's going on. Myron at a college campus.
Yeah. Let's do a little bit of background. So basically, you just got Myron going to a college campus. Why is he doing this though? Why is he going to a college campus? What's the reason behind it? What do you guys think?
Fashionable at the moment. I think, unfortunately, because of how colleges are now, and the rampant, these are left-wing organizations almost. I mean, every left-wing ideology is pushed now in universities. So I think it's a good place to go if you're a right-winger, and do your battle. It's a good battleground for right-wing people to go and take on people left. And it's easy pickings in a way because these are also young people who haven't formed they haven't got their debate skills up. There's a lot of passion, but not a lot of understanding. So it's a perfect opportunity to kind of challenge left-wing ideology without any serious pushback. You see what I mean? What you're going to get is just name calling and insults and then sign language. So it's a good place to kind of show, look, this is the left. This is what they're about.
I was going to ask, would you say that's the right place to confront this type of ideology? But I wanted to ask Hassan, what do you think? Why is he going to college campuses to do this now? Because I mean, of course, he's fresh and fit. He's had the success that he's had. Things kind of went downhill a little bit, and now I'm seeing Myron on college campuses.
Because they're easier target than the OnlyFans girls. The OnlyFans girls get a bit emotional and personal, things like this, but these ones, they take it to another level. I think they're as narcissistic and delusional as the OF girls. I think it's a case of name me 3 countries. It gets kind of worn out. I think this is the next level. This is name me 3 shithole countries or something like this, I guess. the game plan. Excuse my language.
I think Myron is trying to restore credibility to the fresh and fit image. I think that's what's happening here. And the only way to validate it is to go to a university campuses. campus, because in a university campus, first of all, you're dealing with people that are actually studying. You're dealing with people that are actually, they're going to be the future of our generation. They're going to be the future of the world, of the country. So if you're going to interact with anyone, if you're going to trying to get your like ideology, if you're going to validate your ideology, it's best to go to the people who are going to be in charge of the country in the future. And usually those people tend to be the people who go to university and challenge them. And I think he's doing it because one, I think the main reason why he's doing this, sorry, not I don't think there's many reasons to why he's doing what he's doing. I think the main reason is because he lost a lot of credibility through he lost a lot of credibility by giving prescriptions to people for the red pill. So he gave a lot of prescriptions. People realized that it was all bullshit. So the only way of him gaining any credibility at all is by him going to these campuses and basically exposing this left ideology. I don't think it's easy pickings, even though they are. Because anyone who supports the left is literally easy pickings. I mean, come on, let's be honest. But I think it's just Myron's attempt to basically establish some credibility back to Fresh and Fit, so that people can start looking at him and not laugh at him like they've been doing for a long time now. And mostly people are literally laughing at what's his name, Fresh and Fit. Oh, the reason why they did it, they started laughing at them, is because of their prescriptions. It's not because of the arguments that they have against feminism or talking about the dynamics between men and women. It's not because of that. It's because of the prescriptions. Go and have sex with 50 women and blah blah blah. That's the real reason why Fresh and Fit went down the drain. But when it comes to everything that he's saying as far as relationship dynamics goes between men and women is absolutely 100% right. But yeah, all right, let's go into this. Let's see what's going on.
Like a high school team, can be professionals. Like high school boys have been professional athletes that are women.
Agreed. Yeah, it's been proven.
That's
I
what I'm saying.
agree with that.
And it's interesting because a lot of these people that are saying this stuff, have you been to?
Guys, is that loud enough?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Can you guys hear it properly? Or is it?
It seems quite low.
Seems quite low. That's what I was thinking. It seems really low. Hold on a second. But James says he can hear it though.
I can hear it, but I can see if somebody thought it was quite low.
Okay. If you guys got a better link, is this the main one? Yeah. Is this the Fresh and Fit one? Am I on the right?
It's already got the timestamps on the YouTube thing. So yeah.
Okay.
Fresh and Fit one, yeah.
So this is the right one. Yeah. All right. Okay.
A WNBA game before? Exactly.
I never will, probably.
Exactly. And a lot of the people that are saying, "Oh yeah, women's sports," they would never attend the WNBA.
I agree, yeah.
It's just virtue signaling, right? Like I actually am being honest here and saying that female sports are pretty pointless and no one watches it because it's not interesting.
Well, that's only because of Caitlin Clark.
I'm not playing this guy.
That's
I'm
only
waiting for this guy to finish.
Bro's talking about one game when the league is always negative and needs to get subsidized. Like, okay, cool. So, yeah. See, I'm just saying what everyone thinks. I mean, I don't think any of you guys here on the left go to WNBA games. None of you do. But again, I'm just being honest about it. Female sports suck.
So do you answer? I just want to hear can you drop 20 points in a WNBA game?
I don't know, man. I haven't played in years, dude. So I don't know. I'm getting old. So
all right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. How are you doing?
How are you?
I'm great. So I understand that this is all just rage bait and this is how you make money. And that's kind of embarrassing, honestly.
Yeah.
But I just have to ask, what do you think of your mom?
What do I think of my mom?
Your mom.
It's actually my mom that instilled a lot of these ideas in me. She's the one that warned me.
Really?
Yeah.
So she's anti-woman too?
No, she's anti-whore.
Anti-whore?
Yeah. No, I'm the whore maker.
It sounds kind of like
men can't be whores, ladies. Men can't be whores. Men can't be whores.
Can I
Only
have-
women can be whores.
Can you give me a definition that backs that up?
I'm sorry.
Fair
A
use.
definition of some kind that backs that up?
Very useful.
Backs what up? That men are not whores?
That men cannot be whores because anyone can be a whore. Anybody can sleep around, and men do it way more than women do.
Yeah, well,
Can we pause it?
actually, so here's the thing.
Yeah.
Whore,
So I guess the first question is, can men be whores? What do you guys think?
Hassan, you go first.
No, not at all.
Okay, explain.
If he borrows money from you and doesn't pay you back, I guess he's a whore. But but the idea is value, societal value. So a man who sleeps around is promiscuous. A woman that sleeps around is promiscuous. That would be a definition for them. But the stigma or the pejorative whore doesn't refer to men, because a man's, I guess, value to a woman doesn't diminish by the number of women that he slept with, but a woman's value to a man, from a societal perspective, diminishes when she sleeps with a lot of men. So the term whore, if I could use that word, this video is getting demonetized anyway, just to let you know.
It's
It
slaw.
doesn't
I think slaw is the word that they use. Is slaw.
Slaw, sorry, slaw. Yeah, it doesn't apply to women. So, can a man be promiscuous as much as a woman? Yes. Can he have the negative side effects of being promiscuous almost as much as a woman? Yes. But from a societal perspective, no.
I think
Okay.
I think the term whore applies to women. It don't apply to men, but that's not to say that a man cannot be promiscuous, and being promiscuous is just as bad as being a whore. To there's different consequences when a woman is a whore to when a man is promiscuous and sleeps with a lot of people. There are different consequences, but I mean, it's bad, or it's bad for both. Don't make no mistake. It's not good for a man to sleep around, like it's not good for a woman to sleep around. But socially speaking, as far as society goes, there will be different consequences for both women and men. For women, men will not want to marry whores. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I believe the marriage has declined, because as women become more promiscuous, men are just not attracted to them for long-term relationships. I bet you a lot of men will be marrying a lot of women if most of these women had very low body count or were virgins. But because that's not the situation right now, I'm not surprised that men are not marrying women. But then again, when men also become more promiscuous because they are the leaders of society, they send the wrong signal to women. And in a sense, what they do is inadvertently they encourage women to actually become whores. So that would be the negative side of when it comes to men being promiscuous. And of course, there's also the biological side. There's oxytocin and dopamine. Oxytocin for women and dopamine for men. Men just want to scratch that itch, and oxytocin means women get attached quickly. So yes, so there's all sorts of problems. But yeah, socially speaking, a woman will be punished more for being a whore than a man would.
Right. And even just from a etymological standpoint,
Mm.
which I like to do a lot these days, 'cause I like to get to the root of some words that we use.
Mhm.
So even when you look it up from that etymology online, it says woman who prostitutes her body for hire, a general term of abuse for unchaste or lewd women. And that's from the 1200s, apparently. This is where it's come from. So just by the definition itself,
Mhm.
men can't be whores. Yeah, but however, it does not mean it doesn't suggest that doesn't mean that men who behave in the same manner, i.e., are lewd and have multiple sexual promiscuous, as Nelson said, is okay. And that's not what that means, though. Just because we're not using the same wording doesn't mean it's okay. I think it's a very important distinction to make.
Yeah, promiscuity is bad because I've destroyed a lot of women's lives for promiscuity, man. Trust me.
What's the word for a man? Slaw.
Promiscuous, dog, I guess is the
yeah.
word they use.
That's
F boy.
a new one.
Yeah, but the thing is, men don't really mind those. Men don't really mind if you call it.
And that's interesting you said that, Nelson, because another really good point. Now, I always bring this up, and I think even Myron touches on it too, is that when women are insulting each other, one of the first insults they draw for is these types of words. You're a this, I won't go to all the words here, but I think we know what the words are. There's a few of them. They'll draw for that straight away, and all the words suggest the woman is promiscuous. And they use and men have disagreements. I've never ever in my life heard a man say, chastise another man for being promiscuous. I've never ever seen that before.
Even if a guy was to say, "Oh, Octavio, you're a dog," you.
It's tongue in cheek.
It's like, yeah, even if it was tongue in cheek, I'll be laughing. I'm not gonna listen. First of all, I'm not gonna cry about it. I'm not going to even disagree with him about it. I'll be okay with it. I'll be honest with you.
Because a man generally isn't threatened by a promiscuous man because the default is my woman is loyal to me. But a woman is threatened, I guess, to a certain degree, or despises.
Good point.
A woman that is considered a slaw because she makes the assumption that because men can disattach themselves emotionally from sexual interactions, that she's threatened how that woman can ruin his home. Because it's usually a man cheating, I guess, is in the mind of the woman. So yeah, that's why it's a insult. It's a shaming tactic to say, be careful of this one. She will ruin your relationship because your man can be tempted.
Yeah,
No, but
temptress.
Yeah, but the thing is,
yeah.
It's funny. It's funny that Myron does an experiment that he does all the time, and this speaks to the truth of it all. When he asks a woman, "Okay, what's your body count?"
Oh, don't spoil it, Nelson. Don't spoil it.
Oh, okay, my bad. Let's get to the rest of it.
Before you carry on,
yeah,
the equivalent, just to get it off my mind before I forget, the equivalent for a woman calling a woman a whore in a man's world is a man calling another man a coward. In my mind, yeah. If you're a coward or you're weak,
or the P word, Hassan.
Yes, a female's private part, I guess, is slang. That's
the equivalent.
Yeah.
Well noticed. Well observed. Well done, Hassan. You're on your A game.
You're not called Professor Hassan for no reason, you know.
Well observed.
To be fair, the red pill is entry level human dynamics. Is only a simple mind is confident.
Hey, calm down, bro. Let's not insult.
I'm not insulting you guys. I'm insulting
not us. The poor incel viewers are gonna watch anyway. So this weekend, I need to shut up, man. What is wrong with you, man? Hassan, stop doing this.
You're right. You're right.
You bring the worst in me, man.
Praise be to the inside.
Can you guys all hear me still? Okay. Whore is a pejorative term. So typically, well, let me ask you a question. What's your body count?
My body count?
Yeah.
I'd rather not share that on the internet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, here's the thing. I knew you were going to say that. But hold on. There's a reason why you don't want to disclose that.
Yes, because I have free will and I can say what I want. Thank you.
No, sure. But let's actually peel the layer back, right? The reason why you don't want to disclose it, as well as women in general don't want to disclose that, because women understand that their sexuality defines their value in the dating marketplace. So even though women sit there, look at this, she's literally losing her mind. Even though
I've talked to men before
But
that.
Let me just finish my point,
Okay.
right? So women instinctually know that their body count directly affects, and their past promiscuity directly affects their ability to find a suitor in the future, right? So when people use a term like whore, which is a pejorative term, that's attributed to women because you guys care about your body count because that limits your ability to find a man. But for us, the more partners we have, typically the more value we have. Because as a man, for you to be able to get a lot of sex, you have to bring something to the table, right? Men that have sex with a lot of women
I think
typically have some kind of money, some
Can I
status,
speak?
they're charming, they have something.
Can I speak?
Well, I'm finishing my point to answer your question. So men have to bring something to the table to be promiscuous. Women don't. So that's why it's not respected.
I think every woman here would agree that we don't want men bringing their sexual experience and sluttiness to the table. We want men bringing their kindness, their godliness, their honesty, their communication skills, their education. And by the way, did you know that over half of this campus is women?
Yeah, I know. Women dominate college attendance, which is one of the problems. But regardless, so, and this is why college is a scam
That's
in
why.
most cases. But yeah, the reality is the things you just mentioned, this is what I mean, right? So I'm going to translate that womanese for you guys. So she said, we want guys that are knowledgeable and nice or whatever. This is, again, this is women speaking from a perspective that the guy's already attractive. But the reality is nice guys don't, there's a reason why nice guys finish last as a phrase. Women say these things, but you're not actually aroused by it. You want the bad boy. You want the guys that are attractive, the guys that can tell you to shut up, make a sandwich, right?
I think you're stuck in 1950 and you need to wake up and realize you're in 2025
No, that's precisely my point is we're 2025 and women
Yep.
have changed.
for the better.
For the worse, actually. But that's fine.
Okay.
But
Well,
but
did
yeah.
you know that a woman invented Wi-Fi? You couldn't even upload your rage
This
bait
is the second
videos
girl that
without
said
her.
This is incredible.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Fantastic.
Yep.
If we had to rely on your guys' ingenuity, okay, we'd be rubbing sticks on Wi-Fi. Fantastic.
I guess we can stop there.
If we had to rely on female ingenuity, we'd still be rubbing sticks together for fires.
I
with
think-
some Wi-Fi.
I think you should take up comedy. You're really funny. You're really, really
I
funny.
do it part-time.
Yeah.
Part-time.
Guys, did you notice the sign language right from the
Of
start?
course.
And
But
it's always
it's to be expected. That's why I said it's easy pickings for these guys, Nelson. It's easy pickings because they're young, they're emotional, they haven't got the intellectual, and they haven't got the debating skills, and they don't have the arguments, meaning they haven't thought out the responses. So when they're kind of slightly cornered, that's all they can do is go to Mad Hobbin and attacks. That's literally all they can do.
yeah, but
And
bro,
that's why these guys go here, by the way. They go
But bro-
there because they know they're gonna get that Ed Hamilton response.
but here's what I don't get, JM. Yeah, these people are in universities, right? They go and usually people that are in universities are going to be the ones running the country in the future. These are the minds that are going to run the country in the future, and this is how they are being indoctrinated to think. So I'm with you. They're easy pickings. They are easy pickings. But the thing is, it's like, but they are at the same time the people that will be running the country eventually.
So I believe in this day and age, and it has one coming after. I believe in this day and age that is a very overinflated remark. I don't think universities are really places anymore where people who are so-called running the country are being. Yeah, I don't believe it. I think it's a holding place for liberal ideas and something to keep the kids off the street almost. I don't
Which we
really
can
think there's
see,
much
right? Which we can
value
see,
in
right? Yeah,
Huh?
which we can see right now just by
Yeah,
watching
because
what
if you just look at the types of people that the kind of studies that they're doing, the kind of the things that they're focusing on are not things that the average public are concerned about, or even there's no avenue for employment even.
Mm.
So I think those days are over. I don't think university unless obviously at some level you're going to get the top universities and the people that are maybe doing economics or anything. You know, these guys might go into banking or something. You might get some lecturers out of it. Most of these guys don't turn into lecturers. They might be school teachers, maybe. They might go into the social services and things like that.
But isn't that a
In
problem?
terms of like world
Can you-
leaders, no.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine a woman like that and Hassan, you can answer this question for me as well. Can you imagine a woman like that being a teacher and teaching little kids? That's a crime. That's criminal. I would never allow that type of mentality to walk inside of a primary school or a high school. With her way of thinking, that's problematic. That's an issue.
I agree. And just to go back to the point of, I don't know if we would use the word it's a crime. I guess it's a crime.
It is a crime.
Yeah. A moral crime, I guess. But
Not a real crime. I'll put them in jail for it, even if it's a moral crime.
JM pointed out, I think, that a lot of universities are predominantly women or something like this. No,
Yeah, no,
leftists.
increasingly so.
Yeah, I didn't realize how totally forgot the majority of university students are, well, they're growingly as a percentage growing percentage is women, and there is a push for women into higher education, obviously because of the feminist perspective and such. So that's probably why universities are leaning left to cater to their market, because it is a money making business, universities and such. Somebody's getting rich off university fees and such.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as this is why the main thing about this video that interested me, this thing that he did, is that I could just imagine Fresh on here, man. And I think what he's doing is shifting away from Fresh. I think his whole thing is extending the brand to a Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, all this type of stuff, type Andrew Wilson, if you want to add that as well, type gig. It's the whole talking down to an liberal audience and catering to a particular crowd that is semi maybe Christian, because the Muslims are sort of jumped off this bandwagon since the whole Nick Fuentes sneaker debacle. Then they're not really interested, but it's the trad cons / red pill crowd to a certain degree, building their own niche online. So this is 101. Go to the most liberal places of young people who will get offended and be like, well, this is, you can't say this and you can't say that and you can't do this or whatever. And just say things that you would hear at a local bar or a local truck stop or garage or something that really should be there. You don't come up to these people and say these things and think that you're trying to educate them. What you're really trying to do is look for a reaction, saying things like, men can't be whores and you're useless.
Make me a sandwich.
Yeah, like a sandwich is not that appealing. It's not even that hard. Make me a stew or a tiramisu or something. At least I can respect that. But these things, it's kind of, it's 2006ish. It's kind of played out. Myron's doing well, but he's not the patriarch. He's a Sudanese guy. So to a certain degree, they're not going to give him that much pushback because he's an ethnic minority, even though he's a man. You've got to be a particular background for this to be, because their number one enemy is the white heterosexual semi-Christian man. From this liberal perspective, he's the arch nemesis. He's just a Sudanese guy on stage. So to a certain degree, I can't see this going far before the crowd starts to give him empathy and saying, whatever, right? So this is a push. I just feel sorry for Fresh. I don't know what he's doing right now, trying to start fights with Sneaker or whatever. But this whole Fresh and Fit is really starting to crumble apart. Not because of cancellations. It's just running out of steam and running out of ideas. And even Myron, he doesn't have the charisma for this. It's funny, it's cool, but he's at least with Charlie Kirk, he's got that ultra Zionist sort of passive aggressive smile that you want to. It's a punchable face. He fits the villain. You've got Ben Shapiro with his very academic, great assault rifle type responses in terms of machine gun responses. I said assault rifle, machine gun responses that are very very clippable. But Myron, this is it. I have an interest in it to a certain degree because I've been watching Fresh and Fit for a while and being intrigued by how strange it all is. But I can't see him being he's too monotone. He's too He's too demure. He's cool, but
Corny, slightly corny.
yeah, I guess that's the word. It's just off. It's like instead of Coca-Cola, it's like off-brand. It's like Dr. Pepper. It's cool, but I'm not leaving my house for it. I'm not gonna go out and go, I'm gonna get myself a Dr. Pepper.
Cola.
Yeah, or like Kibla Cola or Cola Light or Pepsi Max. It's just it's just not it's not quite there. And he's doing a good shot. Leaving fresh at home is a great move. But I don't know where he's going with this.
You want to go to the next clip, Nelson?
Yeah, but
clips.
I just wanted to say something to what Hassan said. I disagree. I think the woke ideology has dumbed down liberalism in general has dumbed down the Western world so much. I mean, to the point where women think they can be men and men can. You have to be very stupid to be able to think like that. So the thing is, you don't need an intelligent person or an extremely articulate person like Charlie Kirk to basically come out and what do you call it, and expose these guys. You don't need anyone that's actually really intelligent. All you need is, I mean, I'll be honest with you, someone dumber than what's his name than Myron would be suitable for challenging this woke ideology. So Myron doesn't even need to be doing that. But I would say Myron is way too much intelligent for people that believe in the woke ideology. So it's a privilege for them to even have him there. And again, I don't agree with the red pill. I don't agree with Myron's prescriptions and so on. But when it comes to dismantling feminists, you don't even need to be that smart. When it comes to dismantling the woke ideology, you don't even need to be that smart. So they are getting perks here to have Myron on campus. And I think if you're really going to try and attack the ideology, well, you have to go to the breeding grounds. You have to go to where these people are being indoctrinated. You have to go to the college campuses. You have to go to the university campuses. That's the only way you're going to combat, because whether people like it or not, that is the future. That is the future of the nation. Are these people that come from the faith? JM was absolutely right when he said, I don't think colleges and universities mean anything anymore. It's true. But nevertheless, that piece of paper that says that you went there will mean something to whoever wants to employ you. Whether that means anything, that's neither here nor there. But I think if the world is moving towards a more liberal way of thinking, well, they want people that are more liberally inclined, and who else than the people, than the college students who are literally being bred for it, who are literally being indoctrinated for it. So they would be the perfect target. So yeah, let's go to the next clip, man. If you guys want to add anything, feel free. Let's go to the next one. This idiot here really pissed me off.
Here for you
That's
to address
fine. You don't have to. You don't have to
specifically.
wait. That's totally cool.
Like, it would be nice if you could address the assembled people here as to why you think Nazi Germany is good.
Shut up, bro. What are you talking about?
But the thing is, also, the reason why I included this clip is because
did you include this?
This is why I put this up there as a thumbnail, and the reason why.
My bad. Let me play that.
Let me explain why. You can play a bit of it and then stop it, and I'll explain why I used it.
But you kind of preempted what I was going to say, so I'm going to give the mic to someone else.
Hold on a second. Yeah, because I thought I didn't think you chose this one.
But the reason why, explain why.
You picked on the girls. What is it?
Why don't you?
Because that will take the conversation somewhere else.
Okay, then I can ask a question. Do you mind if I ask you a little bit of a deviation from the topic?
All right, if it's not too far off, but go ahead.
I think there's some way that these ideas can be linked. So you famously said that Hitler did things that were morally incorrect. He definitely did a bunch of things that were correct for his country. Can you just explain what things Hitler did for Nazi Germany that were quote unquote good?
Sure. Now that's way off the topic.
Well, I mean, you can talk about women in the Nazi movement if you want to.
Well, here's the thing. We're here to talk about why women deserve less, but how about this? Let me answer a couple of these questions that are on topic, and then I could definitely do that one.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
So when you and we spoke about this earlier. See, when Myron first came on the scene,
Mm-hmm.
he was anti-feminist. You know, he was getting a lot of props within the red pill community and outside of it. And even we gave him some props at the beginning. This is way before. We talk about Myron, baby Myron. We're talking about before the hair transplant Myron, that Myron, the humble, almost slightly humble. The Kevin Samuels slightly protege Myron, that guy. He was on the ball. He was dismantling a lot of these overtly feminist talking points, and he was doing it very well. Then, obviously, the self-hate came out, the hatred came out, the a lot of his issues started to come out, and his incel mindset came out, and that ruined his brand. And we can see what's happened. And this is that question there is just a perfect example of why he as they say, dropped the bag in terms of or messed up his brand by introducing stupid topics that have ultimately demonetized them. Now he's opened himself up because I can tell you right now, it's not a good look for you to be in public in this day and age and people to be basically insinuating with your own words that you're anti-Semitic, and that is not good for your brand. And that's what that guy has done because Myron has opened up the door for it. So I wanted to just give because if he never did that, we wouldn't have this question. Myron could have still had these views, but if he kept them to himself, we wouldn't have this question coming up to try to derail him. So for me, it's just an example of where they went wrong. The fact that
Why
that question has
do
come
you
up.
think he decided to do that? He decided to put his business at risk. This is actually an interesting point you raised. Why do you think he decided to put his business at risk for the sake of his political views? Meaning, I hate the Jews so much, I'm willing to put my own business at risk because I want to tell the whole world how I feel about them.
I think he thought he was too big for his boots. I think that's ultimately what happened. He started to feed his own hype, and when you start to feed your own hype, you feel that anything you say will be accepted, and that there'll be no pushback, or you're so intelligent that you can argue your way out of anything. And I think that's what happened to Myron. I think he got way too comfortable, and he started to let his prejudices take center stage, and it didn't work out. He made a bad judgment.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. 100%.
Can I give my?
Yeah. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I think it goes back to the expression that I've heard once. Hate is the only substance that eats its own container. That's a statement I heard once somebody say, and I think it describes this mentality perfectly. And ultimately, a lot of the far right as well. It really summarizes how they get in their own way, because at some point they self-destruct, because if the foundation is built on hate, whatever good is gained, it will burn away through its own destructive nature. He could have kept quiet about it. He could have just said, hey, these are my opinions, this is what I have, but no normal person states this in public. I'm not going to go to Sneaker's house and put on a white cape, not white cape, a white hoodie, start doing hail whatever salutes, and do all this type of stuff and ruin everything for myself, to the point where I push myself into a corner where he could have at some point become big enough to be a part of the Daily Wire or something like this, or some other larger, it could have been a part of a Tim Pool segment or something like this, but his deeper sociopathic nature saw some position and status and thought, yes, now it's time for me to devour and double down on my hatred in every capacity possible. Women can satisfy my desire for hatred to a certain degree. Let me go on to anti-Jewishness, anti-black blackness or whatever is anti this, anti that, and just keep on being as fulfill my full sociopathic nature. Let my wings, how can I say, spread my wings. Yeah, that's spread my wings in a sense. And this is the problem with the same thing that actually happened to Hitler himself. To be honest with you, just like, you know what, I can take on the Russians. I'm the best. I am the superior race. It's like, no, it turns out it's a dumb idea. And this is generally the problem with this type of mentality. Once it gets a certain level of solid footing, it ruins it very quickly. What I mean, I mean the mind of the psychopath. Most psychopaths get found out sooner or later because they leave clues to psychopaths or sociopaths, whichever one of those two. They leave clues to their own identity because their ego and their narcissism makes them feel that not only are they invincible, but they should fulfill their full predatory nature, and they gorge on hate. They double down on it. Like Myron's in his mid-30s, right? Marriage and nuclear family is the most important thing, blah 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 blah. But he's on stage now just dumping on women, being like a juvenile, you know, spouting nonsense. And because at least with Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, you've got that aspiring statesman type, especially with Ben, because he actually has a country and an identity that he's trying to support. So there is some sort of self-perceived nobility in what they're doing. This is just a man-child on stage saying, "Hey, you're gay. You're a woman. Make me a sandwich. me. So, bro, like, yeah, but what do you value? Are you providing society? What value are you perpetuating ideas of? You know, do you value marriage? Do you value those things, or do you have an open-ended relationship where you behave like a manslaw or whatever the word is, and having a long-term girlfriend and establishing a family? At least these other guys, they have some sort of foundation and some moral foundation to a certain degree, even though there's still a lot of hatred involved. At least you can see they're walking the talk. I think Charlie's married as well. I think, yeah, he is married. He's got a baby. Same with Ben. He's been married for many years. He's got kids and whatever. At least there is something like they're inviting people to a sustainable way of life. This is just hate Jews, hate women, hate people like this. Video game, have your girlfriend make you large smoothies, go to the gym. This is juvenile behavior perpetuated, and for the sake of hedonistic, and hate is hedonistic as well. Like the idea of I hate you and I'm satisfied with the look of disappointment in your face when I say something horrible to you. Yeah, it's so this is just a stage for a sociopath to spread his wings.
I think, yeah, go ahead, Nelson.
No, I was just gonna say I just think he hates Jews. He just couldn't wait until he. I'll be honest with you. I think the whole relationship dynamics was to get him up there, make some money, blah blah blah. Go against feminism. Everyone goes against feminism. But the whole what do you call it? I think where he wanted to really get to is where he is right now, which is the part where I hate the Jews. I think that was his agenda all along, to be honest with you. As far as intersexual dynamics goes, I'll be honest with you, just like Hassan said, he's not even living up to where's his wife? Where's his children? Where is something that we can look at and say, oh, there's a responsible man raising the next generation that we can be proud of and say, okay, he is contributing to society. He's not contributing to society. So that tells me that all this time, all he really wanted to do is get into a political a place, which he is right now, where he just commenting on politics and basically expresses his hatred for Jews. I think that was the agenda all along. That's why he didn't mind putting his business at risk. That's why he didn't mind doing all of that. And even what's his name, Fresh was like, why are you doing this? You're fumbling the bag, you're messing up the bag, because that's where they were getting most of their money from. But I think after you get a couple of yards, you got extra income coming from other places, you don't really care. You're gonna give into what your heart's truly desires. And that and to him was his hatred for the Jews. And he finally got what he wanted, hatred for the Jews. And now he can talk about it all day long and hide behind the free speech, so I can express my hatred for the Jews.
Can we go to 100 minutes?
100 minutes.
Hmm.
You mean 1 hour?
That's 60 minutes.
60 minutes, right?
Yeah, 100 minutes.
What would that be? Sorry,
An hour 40.
An hour 40? Is that the proper?
Was it hour
should
20?
be a-
Was it hour
It
20?
should be a black guy. A black guy comes up.
He
Sorry,
identifies
hour
as his,
20.
like, career.
Hour 20. I said
As his
I said
career?
hour.
So an hour 20.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
An hour 20. There's no black guy there.
It was an hour 40. What am I talking about? Yeah, 100 minutes, hour 40.
It's a kind of a big guy comes up. A guy, I think he's black or mixed.
Wearing a
If
blue
you
top
see
or?
him. No, that's not him. That's definitely not him.
Is that towards the beginning or towards the end, bro?
No, keep going.
That's the end of the show, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was an hour then. Sorry, maybe my bad.
No. I'm forgetting who it was. I just
That's
watched
it.
this.
Yeah, he's right. That's
Oh,
it.
him.
Yes,
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Oh,
This is very interesting. Very interesting.
So are
Hassan,
we skipping the Nazi thing?
well, well, he didn't address it. Hassan.
Oh,
He
okay.
just said, "I won't answer." Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
this is very interesting, Hassan. Listen to this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good one. Okay. All right, go ahead.
You do all our question people. And I'm not going to thank you. I think you are a weird person.
Good one. I think it's interesting that you say that, because I think, see, the reality is there's a silent majority that agrees with me. This is why Trump won, because guys know, right?
Guys, I'm gonna keep playing. I'm just gonna go to it quickly, yeah, and I'll keep playing it, and then I'll be right back. I'll be less than a minute. Right.
This is why Trump won, because the good thing about liberals, right? This what's good about liberals. Liberals, right, tend to be louder. You guys tend to hit the streets. You guys tend to protest. You guys tend to be loud, which is great. Something I actually applaud you guys for. But nowadays, I think people are waking up slowly but surely, and I think the landslide victory that Trump had proves that a lot more guys are starting to look towards the conservatism and the right wing versus radical left wing beliefs, because it just doesn't serve us to be liberal, and we can see that there. But yeah.
Bring it up just a little bit. Can I bring this up just?
There's a loud minority. What's that, man?
Hey, can I bring this up a little bit? Is that okay? Okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do you remember me at all?
No.
Okay. So can I ask a quick synopsis of what you think the prescription is for society today for men? In a short version, what do you think they should do to be successful with women?
To be successful with women,
Yeah.
Okay, are we talking about like getting a girl for a long-term relationship, just to get laid? What are we talking about?
Well, I think the only reason should be for a long-term relationship and marriage. I mean, that's Jesus Christ founded it. But I'm just curious what your prescription is.
Well, I've talked about this. I think guys have to have certain things in place, right, before they want to get into a long-term relationship. It's 5 things. So I would say 100K per year, 6 figures a year, 6 months to 1 year of savings, be in good shape, have at least 50 partners, right? Sexual body count.
All right. And then is that the last one?
And then there's one more, but that's fine. You could go ahead and engage with what I've said so far.
So the reason I asked that is I've watched almost every single podcast you ever did for about a year and a half.
so much so that I bought into a lot of the things that you said. And for about 2 years, it led me astray and significantly damaged my personal life, including relationships.
How did it lead you astray?
Well, you told me to go sleep with a bunch of women and date multiple women at the same time, which I did. And it significantly damaged my life. And it wasn't until I actually turned around and started listening to Jesus Christ that I was saved. Now, now I'm happily married.
Why the feminist?
That's just thinking that. I find it so
Cringe.
ironic that they actually are clapping the fact that he turned to Christianity, where they are anti-Christianity. I
They
find that
hate
unbelievable.
They hate Christianity. They
I
can't
find
stand
that,
Christianity.
yeah.
Why they
Let me
clap?
let me boo on their behalf for Christianity. Boo.
You know why, Nelson?
Boo.
Forgive the Muslim guys. Forgive
You
the
know,
Muslim.
this goes to show what I say. Why these guys are easy pickings, because you have a group of people, because they can't challenge him ideologically, and they haven't formed the arguments to challenge him. Anything that is counter to what he says, they will applaud, even if it goes against their own personal beliefs. I just find that unbelievable. It's also one of the most annoying traits that I've ever come across. I always find it in certain segments of society. I won't go into detail, but this idea that I'm just going to applaud someone because they disagree with the person I disagree with, even though what they believe goes against my own personal views. I find that unbelievable. It's almost childlike.
I, I, I hear what you're saying, bro, but I know what you're saying, but there's an explanation, and I'm trying to get my head around it. There is an explanation, bro, to what you're saying, because what you're saying is I find this unbelievable, and you're absolutely right in saying it is unbelievable. It is absolutely crazy to even. It's like, why am I going to support this guy when his own ideology goes against my ideology? Does that make any sense at all? But for some reason, it's like I'm okay. All he said so far is I followed your ideology, Myron, and all that I've gotten from it is bad things, basically. And they're like, yeah, no, he means it in a different way when he said that. So why are you cheering for him when if he mentions Jesus Christ, that means anything feminism stands for, Jesus Christ
Right.
goes against it. Man,
Right.
God, man, women, and child, feminism is against that. Marriage for life, feminism goes against that. Don't kill babies, feminism is against that. I mean, everything, equality. Jesus does not stand for equality. It recognizes the difference between men and women. That men are different. This is why men are at the top and women are underneath
At the
men and
bottom.
God.
Guys are
This is what
terrible.
I'm trying to say. So it's like, why would you cheer for that? It's there is an explanation for it. I just can't think of the bloody explanation.
What it is, when you're at the ultimate level of being triggered, and you don't have the argument to counter what's triggering you, almost a delusion sets in.
Yeah,
like a mental cognitive dissonance, delusion, just a complete state of I won't say anger. It's beyond anger. Outrage. You're so outraged and to the point where it becomes delusional that there's no rational thinking has gone out the window, completely gone out the window. So now we're just going on base emotions and base triggers. So the base emotion is that guy's who I hate is being triggered and challenged. Sorry, being challenged. The person I hate is being challenged by someone.
It
Doesn't
reminds
matter who the person is, doesn't matter what they say. Their base thinking is hate that person. This person also hates that person. A plus A means now B is I must now cheer A. There's no thinking behind it. It's just pure emotion. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Because there's no like you said, there's no thinking behind it. Because so far, Figgy hasn't really said, well, the sleeping with a lot of women, that's something that Christianity is against. But in terms of there being God, man, women, and child, all of these things the Christian would have agreed with. But it also reminds me of when there was that movement because of Andrew Tate, Christ is King, and you had loads of Muslims saying that, and then there was also loads of Muslims standing around and saying, "Hey, you can't be saying that. That that means Christ is God. We can't be saying those words." But there was a bunch of them just saying it because that it was hate for the Jews and all of that type of stuff. So, and the far rights, they were the ones who started the whole Christ is King nonsense. Hold on, just want to Rashid, my bro, good
Hey,
on the.
Rafi.
Good on the bloke for changing his ways and realizing the BS FNF advised. Yeah, that took Jesus, Rashid. That's where you need to go back to, Rashid. That took Jesus.
But the
For
thing
him.
is, Nelson, the thing is, and what's so hilarious to me is that we've done reactions of where Christians have been at university and been
Yes.
physically attacked. So
Yes.
this is why I find it so hilarious. If that
Yes.
same guy speaking said, Myron, let me swap with you for 10 minutes, swapped with Myron and
He would have
started
been attacked.
talking about Christianity, he'll be attacked as well.
I still remember that. The brother even, she got arrested on the spot. And all he was doing is says, God loves you. And then that triggered the hell out of her. He didn't even go into the details of
Yeah.
it. And she was already triggered. So yeah, you're right. It's pure emotion. It's volatile. There's no thinking behind it. There's no, it's ignorant. It's just, it's crazy. It's insanity. It's pure insanity, man.
It's I wouldn't say it's insanity. Technically, yes, you're right. It is insanity. But
I'm always right.
Technically, yes.
Technically, I would say so.
I'm always right technically.
What about medically?
You're mocking my use of languages, fair enough. The reason no, I'm not upset. I don't mind a little jeering and thing. But the reason I say that is because you
said you don't mind Al Jazeera, did you say?
No, what's going on here?
Guys, get your mics a bit louder, man, just in case mine's is sounding way louder.
No, yours sounds good. I think JM is speaking under his breath. Well, the reason I say that is because what we might be missing here is there is a group dynamic. It's us versus him, and whoever seems to be on our side. Because this is another one of the reasons I despise the red pill, and I despise the idea of you can mix religion with the red pill to a certain degree. But this is why I don't like people. This is one of the reasons I don't like freedom of speech in general, because it's a real good way to propagandize people. What he's doing is galvanizing feminism to the point where they hear Jesus took me out. What they should be saying, get rid of this guy. This is our biggest enemy, as you said.
Right.
Because Jesus wants us to cover up. Jesus, according to the Bible, not that I believe the Bible is true, and it's basically the world's oldest Wikipedia.
You do believe it. You do believe it. Stop lying.
Hey, let's not get into a religious conversation.
Let's not do that.
Let's make it light. But from a logical perspective, as an individual, they could all come to that conclusion. Hey, this guy that will call us names and things like this, but he will not. He's not. He's not as great a threat to us as religion could ever be, because he's still an individualist and he still believes in individual rights, and we can oppose him for whatever reason in other ways. But the religion is the overarching, powerful message and can galvanize society against my feminist agenda. But because they're in a group and it's groupthink, the individual in every scenario, people stop thinking when they're in groups. And as you said, this is a university campus, so this is the cathedral of feminism to a certain degree, or the church of feminism. I wouldn't say mosque.
That's a good way of putting it. A cathedral of feminism. It is.
Yeah. And so what they're doing is they're outsourcing their common sense and replacing it for a group emotion. So somebody cheers, there's the euphoria, the dopamine goes up, there's the booing, there's the we're gonna boo collectively. We've got a mic, we all get a turn to strike at him, so on and so forth. It's a circus. This is a circus, and this is a show. So they're gonna leave. They're gonna go away and go to their Starbucks and their whatever and talk about. Oh, did he say this? Oh yeah, yeah. I remember. Yeah, when this guy said, "Oh, he's evil." Yeah, blah blah. I'm gonna type on Twitter and we're gonna do this. It really is. It's all self-serving, and there is not much logic and introspection and nuance involved. It's another reason why I really despise. I don't despise, that's a bit much, but I don't respect Andrew Wilson for what he does, because truth should not be show, should not be entertainment. It should not be a something. It should be, because remember, these are young women. They are in their prime years. They're doing things they shouldn't be doing, and they're around. Because I remember, I think one of my Islamic, imams I listened to, his name's Hamza Yusuf, and he was talking about how he's American, he's from California. He said how American society has shifted so much in the past 60 years or so. He said in the 1960s, there was a woman who was kicked out of university. It was in the local newspaper because she had a boy in her dormitorium or a room or whatever it is. She invited him over and she was kicked out of university. And he goes, now they can do whatever they want. They actually outcompete with each other for fornication and depravity and things like this. So the society shifted so much. These young women are in their prime years to a certain degree. Their prime fertile years, and the red pill does not assist men nor women. And this man is the only moral man from what I've seen so far, where he's really bringing home, putting down women and whatever. So what you're really doing is you're sacrificing their futures, the young men and the young women, for your own gratification. And these women need help, but this is the red pill. It's not there to help anybody by itself. It's the red pill is a sterilizer for morality.
Can we hear more from the guy?
I thought I was dropping.
Yeah.
He was Hassan. He was. But I think what you're saying, the guy's going to reinforce it. That's why it would be good to listen to a bit more.
Jim.
Yeah.
I want to find out from you, and I really want to know whether or not he did a good job of explaining what he was trying to say to JM. I want to see your opinion, and I want to hear your opinion on that.
I have one child now with another one on the way, and I've never felt happier. But I felt.
Congratulations, that's good. That's really good.
Thank you. And I know you're not against that, but my concern is what you're saying to men leads them astray, because I'm a walking example of it. And I think you're significantly damaging people, and especially you're leading people away from morality. Women are not sex objects. Women are created in the image of God, and they are valuable. And they should be treated as such. Why should God give you one of his children if you don't even know how to treat them? So I think.
So a question for you. You said you got out there dating and meeting women and stuff like that. And then you said that it kind of hurt you.
Yeah.
How did it hurt you specifically? Did you like just start? What happened specifically?
Well, I started warring against my own flesh. It's like trying to fill an empty void. Mm-hmm. There's a God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every man that can only be filled by God alone. Anything else you try to fill with that's not going to satisfy it. Sure. And I tried to do it with sex.
Yeah. So would it be fair? How'd you meet your wife?
We actually had the #1 dating podcast in North and South Carolina called Who Hurt You Podcast. Okay. And I'm also friends with Fresh.
I know this guy.
I texted him before I came here. Yeah. And I know pretty much everyone on your crew. But I was a heavy follower, and you actually inspired me to start the podcast, and I realized what I was doing was wrong.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that when you went through that experience, you were able to identify characteristics that you probably found as unredeemable and you probably wouldn't want to commit to, right?
In what way?
Well, when you were seeing these women, right, you probably started seeing patterns in how they behave, how they speak or whatever. Maybe they're not qualified to be a wife. Because the thing is, right?
Well, I don't need that. I have the Bible for that. It tells me what to look for.
Yeah, but the thing is that you were able, and again, you're probably not going to notice it, but when you dated and dealt with all these women, you probably were able to identify characteristics that you were not fond of, or characteristics that would make a woman not a good candidate for a long-term relationship. And I think half the game is figuring out which girls don't qualify for marriage versus which ones that do. And clearly you learned a skill set on how to become attractive and get women. And then you're able to identify the things that you like versus the things that you don't like. And that only comes a lot of times with experience. Now, look, if a guy can go ahead and, find a woman as a virgin and be attractive and be able to understand how to navigate that, that's great in modern times. But the reality is a lot of guys don't. And I mean, even in your success story, you had to go through a lot of bad women to be able to identify your current wife as the one. So failures are good. They're good.
Yeah, failures, excuse me, failures in the sense of socioeconomic or maybe even relationship failures could be good. But there's a difference with what I'm saying. I'm saying that we're warned against our soul. Jesus Christ commands us to marry one woman. That's it.
Sure.
And what you were causing me to do was sin against myself. And that's the point I'm trying to get to. It's immoral.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take personal responsibility, bro, because here's the reality.
No, I do, 100%.
Yeah, so
very publicly, I have
and
in front of over 40,000 people. I've done that.
Yeah, great. But the point I'm trying to make is I teach guys a skill set, right? If I give you a gun and you shoot yourself in the foot, is that my fault? If I taught you how to properly use it, how to disarm it, disassemble it, how to load the magazine in properly, all that. If I give you the skill set, then you shoot yourself in the foot, right? Is that really my fault? No, I just arm you with the skill set. Then you choose what you want to do with it. Now, obviously, you wanted to go on toward a sex escapade, which is, I guess, fine. But the reality is, I armed you with the tools to become an attractive guy, and you utilize that. You can't come back and get mad.
No,
and
you
say,
didn't arm me with that. I became attractive when I followed Jesus. That was it.
Oh, okay. Now it's changing the story.
No, I'm not changing any story. It's one thing to be attractive in the sense of gaining sexual partners, but it's a completely different thing to be attractive to someone that wants to marry you and spend their life with you and have kids with you. Those are two completely different sexual attractions. If I walk in here looking like Thor, I'm 6'2" and shredded, obviously I'm going to be attractive to women, but it doesn't mean that that's a relationship that produces value for me and my family.
And again, everyone is different, right? For you, it took some time.
Guys, you get the idea, yeah? You get the idea. You see what Myron is arguing. You see what the other guy is arguing, right? I think he made a big mistake. I think he could have he could have done better in terms of arguing his point.
Yeah.
But he kept
he fluffed the argument in the end.
He kept doing the whole religious talk. Jesus this, Jesus that, Jesus that.
He didn't hallelujah, Holy Ghost talk.
Yeah, and all of that, and that was not necessary. That was not called for. That's not even an argument that the disciples would have used. But there was perfectly good arguments. And JM, because I asked you the thing. What do you think? Where do you went wrong, bro?
So yeah, you're right. He could have been much more lethal and brutal with his assessment. The moment, so there was an opening when what Myron was doing very cleverly, I add, he was trying to slyly take credit for him marrying.
He was taking credit for it.
Yeah, he was basically saying, "Oh, you followed my advice. You did what I say. You got the 50 women, you realize that they all crap, and then you realize what took out for that you found your princess and lived happily." So that was what he thought, let me stay on that topic. The guy didn't refute that. That was the issue. That was his moment to say, no, that I didn't learn that from that experience. That's not what I learned. If he just did that, that would have derailed Myron straight away. Completely. But he didn't come back with that. He just continued with the whole Holy Ghost talk. And that is why Myron was, if you notice, Myron slid back in his chair comfortable because he thought, oh, okay, he hasn't really got the argument to challenge me. So I'll just keep pushing the idea that, because he said to him in the end, failure's good, failure's good, failures are good. So he's basically trying to say, his method worked. And he even said later on, you don't realize it yet, he says. But what I told you to do worked. So the guy failed, I think, unfortunately, because he was very much caught up in the born again mindset, which unfortunately logic goes out the window with some of these guys when that happens. And he really didn't represent himself very well, unfortunately.
Yeah,
started well, but then failed.
Absolutely, 100%. He could have some of the arguments that he could have used that immediately came to me when he was talking was, yeah, what you were asking me for, what you were asking me to do, when it comes to living a promiscuous lifestyle, sleeping with 50 women, could have got me to impregnate women that I did not want to end up with. I could have got them pregnant. I could have had babies out of wedlock. I could have got STDs. I could have got I could have got myself into dangerous situations in terms of ruining my entire life by dealing with certain women, all for the sake of what sleeping around in order to so-called understand these women traits. So I could have got myself into more financial problems if what you're trying to do is vet for women and vet if vetting for women means sleeping with 50 women, you are going to get into more problems. And he could have just provided a list of problems like having babies out of wedlock, and so on. So he could have provided a list of issues. He didn't have to go down the Jesus this and Jesus that and all of that. And that's the part I found annoying. It's like, bro, because Myron was like, yeah, Myron was comfortable. Myron was like, yeah, you just don't realize it yet. But you know what I mean? And that pissed me off. I'm like, why is Myron comfortable? Myron should be comfortable right now. All you have to do is list is basically go down the list of all the problems that guys find themselves in when they live a promiscuous lifestyle. That's all he had to do. Okay, what are the problems for everyone that has lived a promiscuous lifestyle? Lives for every man that lives a promiscuous lifestyle. What are the problems that they get themselves into? And he just had to provide that list, and that would have been enough for him for him to be able to say, this is why you shouldn't sleep with 50 women. So what you were advising me to do was actually the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But instead, I've been saved by the Lord Jesus and blah blah blah. And I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that he was wrong for saying those things, but those things were not applicable. They did not apply for the conversation that they were having. So and unfortunately, he messed it all up, man. Because he started off so well, and then he just ruined it. But he did make one good observation. He did say, "Look, listen. If I come out here 6'2", looking like 4, of course I'm going to attract women. Of course, women will be physically attracted to me, but that's not the kind of attraction that I want. What the attraction that I got from following Jesus Christ got me married, got me, the right woman, and so on and so forth. But that was the only. I was just like, yeah, I was properly. I was up. I was like, okay. Now give him the list of what promiscuity leads to. But that was the only good point he raised. That yes, the advice that you give to men sends the wrong signal or makes men attractive to women for the wrong reasons. That was the only good point he made in that conversation.
Do you guys want to hear my opinion?
Go ahead, bro.
Sure.
Thank you for asking, guys. I've got somewhat of an interesting story. That's why I shouted almost. I don't know if you could hear me, but
I did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, because I was watching and I go, I recognize this guy. I know this guy. He had a podcast. I don't know if he still has it. And a part of me is wondering if he's actually controlled opposition and who's actually a part of Myron's team. But he did have a podcast. And he used to do Fresh and Fit style stuff. And somebody that used to be on this podcast, who used to be a red pillar, actually called into his show to talk about the red pill and how they support it and things like this. Back when he was doing it anyway. Back when he was doing it. And it's interesting to see that how, if this is true, only a few months later, maybe a year later, in fact, it seems now, the whole thing's fallen apart and he's left that way of life. And I hope that people called into his podcast and used to be part of this podcast have also done the same thing. Did he convey a strong argument? No. Could he have done better? Yes. He wasn't, in his defense, he even on the podcast, he never made the best arguments. He gets quite heated and emotional. That's probably why the podcast hasn't lasted as long as his, like somebody like Myron's and Fugazi guy as well, didn't last as long, because just being just wanting to do it isn't enough in terms of the podcasting game and such. Having the ability to make good arguments is important. But I'd have to go back to his podcast to see the last couple of episodes if it really did, because he seemed quite committed to it. He really was an aspiring young Myron. And I'm a bit suspicious because they're pretending like they don't know each other, because they do.
Yeah, that's interesting. It might not be the same guy you're talking about, though.
It's exactly the same guy. I can actually find a clip where we can play it.
Are you
So
sure?
the guy said that he has a podcast with his missus now, he says.
Oh yeah, the older podcast is him doing Red Pill from about 6 months ago, a year ago.
And he did say he's a very good friend with Fresh, though. So that also may be suspicious. Okay. Yeah.
I was just thinking some of the reasons that he could have given, right? Like maybe wedlock, that would have been one. What about impregnating the wrong woman? Maybe she's not a good one because you're just having sex with any chick. You don't know what she's like. You're just having her for a night. You don't know if she's a good person. You don't know what kind of morals she has, because the purpose is to just sleep around. Running the risk of creating a single parent household, because she could turn around and be like, listen, I had sex with you, I'm happy to have the baby, but I don't want anything to do with you. The government is there to support. These are just some of the risks that he could have listed. Also, other risks could be, because you don't know what kind of women you're sleeping around with. They could be violent, they could be setting you up, there's many, the list, and not to mention also the fact that you are destroying women's lives as well. You are becoming a part of the problem by sleeping with these women. You know, they might want a relationship out of you. They might want something serious out of you. But guess what? You are in your plan to understand women, and you have a target of 50 women in order for you to come to this moment of enlightenment where you understand women's nature and you are able to choose the right woman. So you say, okay, I'm gonna have sex with this woman and move on to the next one until I reach my target, and then I'll be able to make the right decision. So I mean, the risks are enormous. I'm sure if we were all to brainstorm all the problems that comes from living a promiscuous lifestyle, we would be here all day. And the fact that he didn't mention that, and this guy apparently had a podcast. I'm thinking, you had a podcast. You know the entire Fresh and Fit staff. You speak to Fresh on a regular basis. You even ask Myron, do you recognize Myron? Cracked me up. No, I don't. I thought, nice one, Myron. It's like, what's with this entitlement, bro? just tell me what the argument is. Do you recognize me? Who are you supposed to be? Sorry. No, I don't, bro. Some people
he snubbed him nastily. He snubbed him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, grow up, man. Like, what's your argument, man? We can catch up later. But the thing is, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like this guy here. He could have, like, you've been doing podcasts all this time, and you obviously didn't think it through. Your disagreement with the ideology, you never thought it through like we did.
Yeah. How did it ruin his life? He didn't embellish that. How did it ruin his life?
He didn't even answer the question. He just, it's like, don't get me wrong, as a fellow Christian, I admire your passion, but you kind of let us down when you don't break this thing logically, because it had nothing to do with, of course, afterwards, after you've broken him down, you can promote our Lord Jesus Christ, of course, by all means. But it's like, if you're not breaking them down, if you're not winning the argument just by using logic, it's like, bro, you kind of let us down, bro. You know what I'm saying? I feel like slapping him and getting him out of there, bro. I was like, you idiot, man. embarrassing me right now. You know what I mean? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
What do you call it? What's the next time stamp, man? What are we
We
gonna
could do
go?
one more, I think. Is it all right to do one more?
Yeah, come on, bro.
Yeah, let's do one more and then we call it a day.
Where do we go to? Where do we go? Which one? Which lady do we go to?
Go to the furthest one along, I reckon.
We've got the pronouns.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Let's try that one. That was infuriating.
What's up?
Hi, I'm Kenny.
Hi.
I use all pronouns, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
You said, I'm sorry, you said you use what pronoun?
I use all pronouns.
I use all of them?
Yes.
Okay, you're a she, right?
You could say that, yes.
Pause.
Okay. Just so I know.
Pause. Can you explain? See, this is what I'm talking about in a university, because what she's saying doesn't even in their own mythology is the only word I can use. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense even in their own thinking that you can identify as all pronouns. That doesn't even make sense. But she said it and was applauded for saying it. So I always say to you that a lot of this stuff is just confusion. It's the base of it is confusion. It's about confusing.
Well, the fact that
It's
she's been
basically
applauded for something.
it's basically Baal worship, because Baal worship is all about confusion. By the way, the Tower of Babel. Remember the story is about confusion.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that's what it is all about, and that was that's why I put this clip up, because I want people to understand what confusion looks like. When anything is built on confusion, there's no limits to the confusion.
You can go
and
on
any
forever.
any form of confusion will be acknowledged, if you see what I mean. Nobody within the paradigm will say, "Oh, well, actually, there is some rules to what we believe that does actually make sense that you can be all pronouns." They won't say that. They say, "No, that's okay. We have now made that make sense."
Listen, bro, hold on. We've got Mike. Mike,
Hey.
what's going on?
How's it going? What you guys talking about the LGBTQAI plus?
No, but
This woman just didn't want to say her pronouns. Said, "Oh, you can
No.
call me if you want."
No, she had all pronouns. She's all pronouns.
Yeah, right. She's got all pronouns.
No, we're talking about an interview that someone. Are you aware of Fresh and Fit dating?
Oh
podcast?
yeah, sure. Marvin and Sneeko.
Myron.
Okay, Myron.
Yeah, him and Sneak. Oh, poor Sneaker.
Yeah.
He's a Muslim now.
I don't know. Yeah. Is Sneeko still on there ever? Or?
Nah.
No.
He's into
He's
religion.
falling out with Fresh.
He's falling out with Fresh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess when Myron was talking about buying real estate, and Sneeko had converted to Islam, and he didn't know interest wasn't allowed yet. And he's like, "What? I can't borrow money to buy houses?" And he's like, Myron's like, "I mean, you can pay cash if you want, but it's the dumbest way ever to do it."
What do you call it? Yeah. So basically, Myron, he went to one of these college campuses, and he decided to confront feminists with his way of thinking. And well, it's funny because we call the red pill feminism for men, because Myron's prescription pretty much follows the feminist way of thinking, in my opinion, anyway. Well, actually, it's the truth. It does. It really does. So, anyways, so we're just reacting to a couple of the people that came up and asked Myron questions and so on and so forth. Remember, these are the people that are going to go on to, run the world. These university students, and he's basically just exposing the feminist indoctrination that they've been, how do I say this, indoctrinated with in these university campuses. So that's basically what we are doing, and
Gotcha.
that's
Is this an Ivy League school?
Sorry?
Is this an Ivy League school?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure. I think so. It's definitely a university. Here in England, you guys call university campuses.
Right.
We just
University
call them,
campus.
yeah, we just call them universities.
Sometimes we intermingle the word college with university, even though
Yeah,
they're completely different. But
yeah, it's a bit different for us. So yeah, so we're just reacting to these guys. So I'll
you
keep
guys
saying
just say at uni, right?
yeah, these are university students, and it's just
Yep.
it's funny that I'm sorry, I find it funny, but I don't actually find it funny because it's look, you can't be this, you can't be at university and be this lack this amount of common sense. It's incredible to see it. It's incredible. People they don't acknowledge the biological reality between men and women, and as a result of those biological realities, men are are more are going to pursue different things from women, and so on and so forth. These things escape them. These things, it's like you're in university, you studied biology, you know the difference between men and women, but they ignore all of that. And to me, I find that fascinating. I think that is completely fascinating that you can study biology and still deny biological realities. I think that's crazy.
Right. Well, they've created the whole new thing of gender to get away from I guess they'll say they know there are people who are sexed as men and people who are sexed as women, but they can identify as the opposites. That's why they created the word gender. Gender used to be pretty intermingled with sex. What is your gender, male or female? What is your sex? Gender roles. What do the men do? What do the women do? And then I don't know when gender became this thing about self-identifying as whatever you want. Yeah, I don't know. Are you familiar with Matt Walsh?
Yeah. He
did this years ago, went around the college campuses, set up a little table.
What is a woman?
What is a woman? Yeah, he wrote a whole book on it, did a movie. He also did or maybe it was another guy did this, prove me wrong, and he make a statement.
Well, Myron is trying to do the exact same thing. That's what Myron is trying to do. I think he lost the credibility, and now he's trying to regain some credibility, some fresh and fit credibility, by going to these campuses and try to expose the left or the feminist ideology that they indoctrinated.
He can't get any. He can't. Just one more thing. He can't get any more OnlyFans girls to come on. He's berated them too much. They're wised up.
No, they get the thing is. I'll be honest with you. Getting the OnlyFans girls went against the credibility. If you go to university, if you go to college campus, then yes, because you will get that credibility because you're talking to so-called students, so-called people who are educated. And what I think what he's trying to do, personally, my opinion, is trying to show that it doesn't matter whether they are OnlyFans girls or they are at university. They are being indoctrinated by the same ideology, the same religion, and they all think alike. It doesn't really matter whether you go to university or you don't. And I think that's Myron's ultimate goal, which I think makes sense.
Well,
I know what I'm dealing with here. How many genders are there?
I was just
going to say, I think in a lot of ways, this is an extension of what he used to do in his show. I think in his mind, this is an extension because you've got the same. These girls were on the show too. It wasn't always all OnlyFans. There were university students on there as well. So I think it's a bit of an extension, to be honest. And the same argument, kind of teasing them and triggering them, and then they getting angry and ad hominem attacks back at him, and him kind of enjoying it.
Yeah, but don't you think, bro? Let me just ask you a question here. They all think alike. They all believe in
hive mind. They call it hive mind.
It's like, isn't that weird? It's like there might be some differences here and there, but for the most part, they all think alike. They all believe in the same thing. They're against the patriarchy. They think men are the source of all the problems. They believe in, I don't know, equality between, they believe that man can be a woman can be a man. They believe in all this nonsense, and they all believe in the same thing. It just like if you go to the Catholic religion and you see a bunch of Catholics and they all believe in the same thing. It's almost as if they all follow the same religion. They do.
I'd like to add the fact that there's a camera there does add to the tension and the circus of the whole thing. I don't think if the camera was there that they would be so excited to be so how can I say, raging against the machine or taking down the patriarchy as much. I think there's a bit of virtue signaling involved, and the camera being there does help with their social status of fighting for gender equality and taking down the man type thing situation. I think.
Yes. Just find it crazy, man. Let's listen to what this woman has to say.
Cool.
Okay, interesting. All right, what's your question?
But of course, you want to know that there's only two genders, correct?
Yes, there are.
Male and female, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you would consider yourself a high value man, correct?
Nope, never said that.
No.
I don't think you can attribute that title to yourself. I think that's something that other people recognize.
Other people recognize. So
Yeah.
you yourself, that you recognize that you are high value.
I mean, if people see me that way, you know, I don't think you can really call yourself like that's like calling yourself alpha. I think that's very cheesy and tacky. I think
Really?
you know, your reputation precedes you. That's what I think it should be, or how it is.
Okay. And you yourself, you say you have a wife, correct?
No, I don't have a wife.
You don't have a wife. Okay. But you do find yourself accompanied with other women, correct?
In what way?
I mean, eco. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like on the show, because like, yeah, we bring girls on our show and everything.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So like me dealing with other women?
Yes.
Yeah. What about it?
Okay. Do those other women, value themselves? What kind of career do those women have when they come to you?
I mean, I don't really care about it,
Why not?
because generally speaking, men don't care about a woman's career. We just don't.
But you said you should bring more to the table. So why not a career? Why not a high-paying value
All right. Well,
job?
okay, let's go through this. So let's say I told you, me and you were on a date, right? And I
Oh,
told
no.
you, hypothetically, again, you could, the purposes, bear with me here. I know you hate me and everything, but yeah.
Oh, I don't hate you.
So,
I'm just trying to see.
so let's assume, right? We're on a date and I tell you, hey, look, I have like this awesome Jordan collection. I got these designer wallets. I got like this walk-in closet. It's awesome. What's
Okay.
your thoughts with that?
You buy a lot of expensive things. Yes.
Okay, so what else comes to mind when I'm
This is painful to watch because we've watched this on Fresh and Fit so many times. It gets on my bloody nerves, I'll be honest with you guys.
talking about my obsession for fashion?
You like fashion. You like to dress up, essentially.
Okay, but what's your opinion on that?
What else is my opinion? What
So,
say?
would it be
That,
fair to
what,
say-
you're a rich man because you can afford Jordan's designer clothes?
Okay,
and
but
everything about it?
okay, let me ask you this. Would it be fair to say that you'd be indifferent to me saying that?
Yes, because
Okay, hold on.
what's the point?
Pause that. Thank you. That's exactly how we feel about women's careers.
What? What do you mean? What
No,
are you
hold on.
talking
No,
about?
I really want you to take that in.
Huh?
That same level of indifference, right, that you have
Uh-huh.
for me having an awesome wardrobe or sneakers or whatever, you're indifferent to it. That's exactly how men feel about women's careers, and I'll explain what I mean by this. Because
Guys, is that true?
I stopped listening.
It's very true. Men do not care what women do. In fact, Seinfeld did a whole episode on it back in the 90s.
I care what they do.
What do you reckon, Jay?
I think I get the premise of what he's trying to say, that it's not as important. It's not as important to men if women are successful in their career, if women are particularly highly educated, as it is to women. I think it's a bit naive to suggest that men don't care at all what women do. I think that at some level you do kind of think, oh, she's creative or she's intelligent, she has achieved certain things in her life and whatever. Like, for example, if you met a woman that was a successful author, that would be interesting. She wrote, if she was, that would be mild. There was some interest there that you wouldn't completely dismiss the idea that a woman is a published author. You'd be curious to know what she's read, what she's written, etc. So the idea that you're not at all interested in what a woman does, I don't think that's realistic. But I get the idea that we're not as vested in what she does in terms of
Yeah.
wherever or not is that's what we want it's not a make or break thing with relationships. Oh, do you have a degree? Do you have £100,000 in the bank and all that kind of stuff? We just go for more. What is she like? Is she friendly? Does she compliment me? Is she not a feminist? So these are the kind of things that we look at more than
All right. Now,
the
okay,
attribute.
let me ask another question then. In today's world, okay, a man and a woman are required in order to support a family. In today's world, it's not like back in the days when things were a bit different. Do you think now that in order for you to have a family, you kind of need, I mean, I'm talking about for the average men and women, right? You kind of need a man and a woman to be working. Um, do you think men now care about a woman's earning potential?
I think it depends on the man. If I can real quick say, I think you're right. If a woman has an interesting career or is educated, you know, it'd be nice if she's a nurse or a doctor and can take care of you. But my point was, and I think, again, Seinfeld did this skit where where an episode where he's dating this woman and, you know, she's a waitress at the coffee shop. And then she breaks up with him and he's like, why'd you break up with me? You know, I thought we were going on great. And she's like, well, to be honest with you, I saw your act the other night. You stink. I can't go out with a man if I don't respect what he does for a living. And so then closing the show, he's doing his little stand-up things like, men don't really care what women do. You know, oh, you work in a slaughterhouse. Wow, it must be interesting, huh? You know, like, if a woman's hot and she's a waitress, and like you said, she's a nice person and you're compatible, do you go, well, I'm not dating a waitress, you know? But a woman would certainly say, well, no, I'm not dating a, you know, Uber driver or something, you know? So anyways, as to do you need two incomes now to support a family? Again, it would depend on the man then. If you're a high value man, as they like to say, it would be a no. If you're, you know, uneducated or undereducated or just lazy and don't have much ambition to get past a line cook, you're probably going to need at least a waitress in the family too.
Yeah, but we have lazy women as well, and
Sure.
the undereducated women as well. But that has never stopped humanity from forming families, has it?
Right. No, if they're still hot, they're still
No,
nice.
I appreciate that a man doesn't necessarily care if a woman is working, you know, in a coffee shop or, you know what I mean, or she has not necessarily a special job or whatever. I don't think men care about that because what, you know, they're more attracted by whether she's submissive, whether she's good looking, whether she's that's the priority for a man. You know, yeah, you can find a job, don't worry about that. But I like the way you are as a person and I like the way you look. That's what man will prioritize. And I do understand that a woman will kind of like prioritize what, you know, what profession do you have, you know, how much do you earn and so on and so forth. Because men and women are different. Again, it speaks to the differences between men and women. But the thing is, in today's world, and like I said, it's not like back in the days. In today's world, you need both men and women. And I'm talking about the average men and women here, which is the majority of the population. You do need two incomes coming because, as you know, women enter the workforce. So things have gotten more expensive. So therefore, you need two incomes in order to raise a family. Part of the reason why we are not the birth rate is so low. So it's I mean, have man changed? Have we adapted to the times? Have we evolved? Have we evolved? I think we should always go back to the times when you know, one income was enough. But then again, you know, feminism changed things. So now we find ourselves in this position. Have men evolved? Sorry.
Okay, and Sandy, you want to come in? Or I got an answer for that, but I don't know if Hassan wants to come in.
Well, have men changed in terms of how they pick a woman? Is that your question?
No. Given the society that feminism has given, which is you know, women entering the workforce, making life a little bit more expensive, so way more expensive. So have men now you need two incomes in order to raise a family. and I'm talking about for the average men and women, have men changed? Have they evolved, so to speak, and adapted to the times where they are now expect women to, they are now looking at women like, oh, what kind of job you do? Because their income is now valued. Their income is now needed in order for you to raise a family.
In my whole life, my whole adult life, should I say, I've only heard one man with my own ears tell me I want to marry a woman that does this or does that. In fact, he said he wants to marry a woman that's got a PhD. He did get married in the end. His wife, I think she had a university degree, but she's a housewife and he works. So I've not seen enough men look at a woman's career and then choose whether they're attracted to her or not. I think this is generally still a feminine trait. I think women pick and choose who they're attracted to, in some cases by their careers, or are willing to make that compromise, pick a man that they may not be attracted to, but could be a better provider. I still haven't seen it. It might be there. I might be there. I mean, there are couples I see that you can tell that are picking each other, and there is career. Their career is a part of their, how can I say, matchmaking criteria, or partner picking criteria. But those often don't have many kids. Those couples I've seen, they don't have many kids, and it's not really about the family when they're picking each other for careers. In my experience, is usually how many holidays we can get in, how much can we do for the Instagram or whatever it is, how much can we show off to others that we're living on top of the world. In my experience, it's not really about family when they both focus on each other's careers.
Jim.
Yeah. So this is a quick point. I got to go to bed in a minute, but I just want to make this point. Society has been engineered that most men are not in a position to be able to sustain a family with one income. We have to understand that society has not been engineered that way. It's been engineered that both parents have to work, and that's done by reason. There's a reason behind it, because if you want full control over society,
Jim. Hello. Guys, who's still around?
Yeah, I'm here. I guess he just froze or something.
Jim. No, because I thought that was an interesting question. I mean, these kind of topics, I'm not going to lie, Mike, it bores me. Okay. Hold on, Hassan, you still there?
Yes, I'm still listening.
Okay, good. These type of topics bore me, but the thing is, unfortunately, this is the reality now. Society has changed. Feminism has managed to achieve these changes, and it has affected the nuclear family. It has affected, how we morally view the world. And I don't know. I hate liberalism. I really can't stand it. Is that you, Jim? Jim, are you back? He's trying to. I wanted him to finish his point of view, because the thing is,
yeah. Well, I was just wondering who he thinks is engineering society this way. Obviously, the feminists want it this way. I don't know if he's trying to say there's an underlying force pushing the feminists to this. I mean, I think it's interesting because if you look at, obviously we had World War II, and women had to go to work because the men were all fighting the war. Rosie the Riveter and all that. But after that, most of the women went back to being housewives, or before you're married, maybe for a year or two, what were you, a phone switch operator? That's all been mechanized, all been automated. You were a secretary at, the TV repair guy's shop. Obviously there's no TV repairman anymore, and nobody has an office just for a woman there to be answering the phone, right? You just call somebody's cell phone. So it seems the labor force should be able to be getting smaller and smaller, and women should be able to be retracting from it. But now that they're in it, I think they're suppressing wages to the point that, yes, a one And of course, manufacturing has gone away, and that was one of the higher paying, less educated jobs, somewhat skilled labor. Now you got you're a flex driver for Amazon or something, or an Uber driver, if you're uneducated, right? Women have always been kind of the waitresses, but it was usually, young women, or even if they had a kid or something, they drop out until the kids are in school, and then they'll go work a lunch hour, a couple hours during the lunch or something to make a little extra money. But, and women have always been teachers, and nurses, but that's about it. Now they're, in the retail sales force, obviously back in the 50s and even in the 60s, if you wanted to buy shoes, it'd be from a man. If you wanted even to buy clothes, I guess women would work in the women's clothing store and the men would work in the men's clothing store. But they are, they're outstripping men in college now. So they're getting more of the white collar jobs, which then once it takes you till you're 24 or 26 to get that advanced degree and you start your career, you're not going to have a kid at 28 and just drop out. So then you push babies back further and further, and so you have less and less kids.
Do you think, Jam, are you back or not? Hopefully it comes back. Do you think there was a plan? This was, look, when I say liberalism, I'm talking about liberal ideologies. This is what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about liberal ideologies. So I'm not just saying liberalism for the sake of liberalism. I'm talking about liberal ideologies like feminism. Feminism is one of the liberal ideologies. That's what I'm talking about. Jay, yeah, finally we got you back.
Yeah. So
I
go
ahead.
a question. So remember, we had an episode once, and we spoke about one of these Rockefeller guys. He did an interview once. I don't know if Mike, if you're aware of this interview that this Rockefeller, one of these Rockefellers made.
I'll send it to you, Mike. I'll send it to you.
He said we created the feminist music because of consumerism. We wanted the women out working, spending money, because the men don't go out here spending frivolously like that. Women are the number one consumer, and they orchestrated that, knowing the mindset of many women that they will spend. And that's also such. In order to do that, they had to create a market for them, a job market for them. And that's why we have this mass kind of exodus of women leaving the home and the family life and in the workforce, because they're the best consumers. They're the number one consumers in society. That's why I say this is all orchestrated. In terms of who's doing it, I don't want to. Anyway, I'll be careful what I'm saying, but it's a group of evil men. I'll just say that. I'll just keep it there.
I don't think it was done by coincidence either.
Yeah.
I don't think things happen by coincidence. I think I would be naive to think that anyone with half a brain would know that if a woman spends her most fertile years in studying and chasing a career, the population growth is going to go down, because guess what? By the age of 35, you've got high risk pregnancy, and everyone knows how long it takes for you to study and pursue a career and then try and create a family. You're going to get into your 30s before you can say to yourself, you know what, I want to settle down now. But the problem for a woman is when she gets into her 30s, let's say 31, 32, she's already close to high risk pregnancy. She's not going to have the psychological disposition to want to raise a family, and she's only going to have one or two at the most. So the low birth is, I think this was orchestrated because it makes perfect sense, because this is what feminism called for. Feminism came out with the birth control. They came out with the abortion laws. They told women to go out and be promiscuous. They said they forced women to enter the workforce. I mean, for goodness sake, it was planned. It was planned. Now, who's behind it? Like JM said, let's just say evil men. Because the reason why I say evil men is because women didn't pick up guns and win wars in order to have these rights. It was men eventually that said, fine, you've been moaning about it for a long time. You've acted foolish at times, we'll give it to you. So it was men that literally enabled feminism to become what it has become and to have the impact that it's had in society.
Is this a organized group of men called the Illuminati?
I don't know. I have no idea.
No, I don't
I
think
have
it's,
no.
I don't
That's
do
the
that.
thing. I have
yeah.
no idea who these guys are. I have no idea who they are, and I'm not going to pretend to know who they are. But there is no way
It's definitely men. We know that for sure.
No, it's definitely men. That's a fact. It's definitely men because women cannot fight against men. They're not strong enough to do that. So someone enabled it. Someone said okay, and they had to be men. But is it the Illuminati? Is it? I don't know. But they definitely would have to have a lot of power. It was definitely orchestrated because look, if we can't even reproduce to replace ourselves, that's a big problem.
Right. Well, I would definitely say the pill was a pharmaceutical company's idea to make a lot of money, and they probably did. I don't know who came out with the pill.
No. Do you know who came up with it? Sorry to interrupt, Mike. Do you know who came up with it? You please look it up, Mike. This is
I'll go with Bayer.
Nah,
just because they're German, no?
Nah, mate. Do you know a scientist by the name of Gregory Pincus?
Nope.
Yep. Do you know a feminist by the name of Margaret Sanger? She's the one who founded
Sure.
She's the one who founded Planned Parenthood.
Right. She was a eugenicist.
Yeah. And she also, but the thing is, she didn't actually have the money. She had another very rich lady who is the one who funded it all. And they went out and they found Gregory Pincus, the so-called thingy, and they came out with a pill. It was him that invented the actual pill itself. And that's how the pill basically came about. And so to me, this was all orchestrated. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
1903 to 1967, American biologist. Co-invented the combined oral contraceptive pill. You're right.
Yeah, and like this is what I mean. To me, it's like if someone tells me, "Oh, this just came out of nowhere," this is it's like no, these things don't just come out of nowhere. This was planned. It was definitely planned. Women entering the workforce, then you give them the pill, then you give them abortion laws, then you have the sexual revolution, and then you give them housing through the Great Society by Lyndon B. Johnson. You give them all of that. Come on, that's literally the society that we are currently living right now.
But it's divide and conquer, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's divide and conquer. Because as I said to you, the number one thing that tyrannical governments, I should add, when you have a strong community led by men, because then they can't just push anything onto us because the men are going to push back. But if you have fractured communities, fractured families, and these weird ideologies running around, who's a man, who's a woman, there's nothing to push back. There's no group that pushes back, and that's why the universities are just jokes now. Just pushing all types of weird stuff that's not really.
But JM,
that's why I say to you, Nelson, they're not creating world leaders in universities. They're really not.
No. I'm with you 100%. But I want to hear from Mike, because you went from Catholic to atheist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, so at this point, I'm gonna sign off, guys. But I will be listening in. Okay.
No worries, my brother. No worries.
Okay, guys. See you later.
Sleep well.
Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, bro. I have to ask Mike this question. Like, what is your moral compass right now as an atheist? And do you agree with feminism and all of that stuff? And if you don't agree, what's your justification for it?
Well, I agree with feminism in the point in that I agree men and women should be treated equally under the law, for the most part. Obviously, I wouldn't draft women. I think it's a bad idea to have them in the army. I'm not a feminist in that I think women should be superior to men in any way. I mean, again, I have no qualms with equality under the law for the most part. And, you know, if a woman, you know, I remember, I don't know if you remember the Murphy Brown thing back in the 80s or the 90s.
Remind me, please.
Okay. It was a television show starring Candace Bergen. She was like a television presenter or newspaper person or something. But anyway, she's like 40 or something and she's single. So she decides to get in vitro. And Dan Quayle was vice president at the time. So it was under the first Bush, somewhere between 88 and 92. Wrote an op-ed about how this is horrible for society. You know, this is just another lifestyle choice. Here's a woman voluntarily raising a kid on her own. You know, we shouldn't go down this thing. And there was a huge backlash, right, from the left and from the mainstream media and all this. And then about 10 years later, I think the Atlanta Journal, of all people, which is pretty left-wing, wrote an article, and the headline was, maybe Dan Quayle was right, because you know, we had this huge acceleration of illegitimacy. You know, you always had it among poor people, and especially poor blacks. You know, I think D.C. has like an 80% illegitimacy rate in Washington, D.C. And I think you mentioned it back to LBJ, the Great Society. And when you started, we started allowing men to abdicate their responsibility to the family.
Yes.
We started actually encourage women, don't name the father on the birth certificate, don't get married. You can sit there, you can get public housing, you can get welfare, and you can still have this man more or less. Just don't call him a husband. Don't tell anybody he's your husband. And then, of course, the man, he can run around on her too, because that's just kind of the way it sets up at that time, you know, or whatever. So I remember Thomas Sowell. I don't know if you know who he is, American. He says Sowell, but it's spelled Sowel.
I heard of the name. The name sounds familiar. Where the hell is Hassan? Hassan, come back here, because you're a Muslim. We've got a man that's very knowledgeable in his on Islam.
Well, it's funny. I was just watching a Muslim guy in the UK railing against feminism, and one of the things he said was like, "Oh, you don't need a man. You don't need a man to get." I forget what they call it in the UK, but on welfare, you don't need a man to get housing. You don't need a man to get any of that. So it was pretty much like, just have a baby and just get on the dole. You know.
Do you find that? Don't you find that interesting? You know, if you've got a government that gives you housing, that gives you funding, that gives you, I mean, it kind of makes sense for a woman to say, I don't need a man, because you don't.
Right.
Let's be honest. If she gets pregnant, she gets a house, she gets finance, she gets free schools. Well, at least in England you do, free education, free everything. Okay, medical assistance, you name it, everything free.
Yep.
How does that not make sense for them, for feminism to come up with a slogan saying, we don't need a man? Of course you don't need a man, because the government is literally providing for every single thing that a man before used to.
50 million men taking care of you now.
It's all the taxpayers.
Right. And some women, but you're just relying on everybody instead of one guy.
Even women are taking care of you.
Right.
And this is why I'm like, okay, it had to be a plan. I mean, you don't achieve this. I mean, this is what's been engineered is had. I mean, just look at the nuclear family right now. It's disappearing before our eyes. Single mother households is on the rise. I mean, how can we not say this hasn't been orchestrated?
Well, I think you can say it might be unintended consequences. It might be, misplaced liberal. Yeah, the liberal heart, like, okay, these people are poor. If we just help them out for a little bit, we'll get them back on their feet. The conservatives will say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the liberals will say, well, we got to have boots. At least you got to give us boots first if you want us to pull us up by the bootstraps. So now we give you housing. Now we give you food. in America, we have free lunch programs for the poor kids. A lot of schools in the inner cities, if the parents bring them in early, they'll feed them breakfast, and the idea was, well, you're starving. It's going to be hard to learn. You can't concentrate. You got to have some nutrition in you. So if the parents can't feed them, we'll feed them. Well, guess what? Now the parents don't even bother to try. Most of those kids, they'll survey and they say they don't get dinner now. The school gives them breakfast and lunch, and mom and dad, drink beer and smoke pot. Why waste money on food for the kids when they get 2 meals at school?
That's right. And where's the moral argument for me as a Catholic? I always look for the moral argument, because I think the root of all these problems is morality. There is no morality. When I look at atheism, I don't see morality. When I look at liberalism, I don't see morality. When I look at all these, they've removed the morality out of all of these things. For example, the nuclear family disappearing. Where's the moral argument, that an atheist would provide to say, look, listen, okay, morally speaking, this is wrong. We have to have the nuclear family, or morally speaking, we can't be, having abortions because this contributes to, lower birth rates. Morally speaking, we can't have women having babies at 30s because they would have basically missed out on all their fertile years. And where's the moral argument for non-believing, for non-Christians? That's what I want to know, because I always link it to morality as a Christian.
Right.
I can't help it.
I would say I can't link it to morality. I wouldn't have a moral argument. I wouldn't be able to say God has set things up this way. I would make the argument from a societal, beneficial argument. We've done this experiment since the 60s. We're going on 50 years now, 60 years of it. We can see its results over generations, and it hasn't been what we thought. It hasn't been what we wanted it to be. Not just feminism, but the whole liberal social welfare, the Great Society. Again, not to throw an American you probably never heard of, but Patrick Moynihan in 1968 wrote a paper, I think it was titled like The Negro Family.
Yep.
And about black men not taking care of the family and how this is going to be detrimental to society. And, 5 years later, he was called a racist. 30 years later, now it's mandatory reading again. At some colleges. For a little while, they went back to, hang on a second. He was, prophetic in what he said here. So again, I don't think it was any great conspiracy to get women not to marry men and to have abortions. I think it just organically grew out of the sexual revolution, the feminist revolution. I think a lot of it was piggybacked on civil rights. The gays did the same thing. Hang on, Martin Luther King's out there talking about we're being oppressed. Well, what about the raid on, what was it called, Stonewall or whatever, the gay nightclub in New York in 1971? And so it was all rolled into this big ball of freedom.
Can you tell me what was the purpose, right? Just a simple question. What was the purpose of the pill, of inventing the pill? What was the purpose of that?
I don't know. I don't know what his stated purpose was. I mean, there could have maybe been an argument that some women would have difficult pregnancies, and this would help stop that and keep them from it. It's interesting that, Roe versus Wade was married, the first, that's not her real name, but, or is it Roe? Wade. I don't know. The woman, she was married and had 4 kids already, and she just didn't want another kid. I don't know if you've ever seen the HBO series Boardwalk. It's set during the 20s during Prohibition. It's about rum running gangsters and whatnot. And he marries this Irish woman. She's at the hospital, and this one woman has a miscarriage. And so she's over trying to get the nurse and say, you know, we need to have classes. These women, you know, she drank something or whatever, and it caused her to have a miscarriage. And the woman who did it, like, pulls her aside and like, what are you, an idiot? I wanted a miscarriage. I've got 12 kids already. You know, we can't feed anymore. So there was that kind of message that came in from, you know, feminism. Like, we can't just be baby factories here. You know.
So, okay, I see. So the argument from feminism at that time was, we can't just have, you know, we already have too many kids. We need something to stop us from having kids. Is that?
I think so. I'm reading the George Pincus wiki page here, and it talks about, you know, there was no legal birth control in the early 1900s, and, you know, I know women used to do things themselves to keep from getting pregnant sometimes, you know, with water.
Because what I'm wondering is all throughout humanity, there was never this, you know, this worry, and all of a sudden this became a problem in the 1960s. And feminism is the ones who brought it to our attention. But also, okay, abortion. What was the intention there?
Well, yeah, again, I think it's to give women, you know, control over their own bodies, to give them self-determination about their own pregnancies. You know,
do you as an ex-Catholic who's become an atheist, do you buy that?
I'm not sure what else it would be. I mean, again,
afterwards, we had the sexual revolution afterwards, right?
Right.
So I find it very strange, and you know that you legalize contraception, you mince contraception, you legalize.
I believe originally contraception was only legal by prescription to married women.
I mean, I understand that that's how it would have started, because women back then were not the same as women today. I think the intention was always to become what it became today. I think that was the whole plan, but you couldn't convince a lot of women back then, because the moral fabric was still very much Christianized still, even back then, even with the feminist movement doing what they were doing. But today, but I think the intention, you know how it usually is, you know, they start off with something that's questionable, and over time they become a little bit more relaxed, and now anyone can get it, right? Contraception is available literally everywhere. You just have to walk in. That was always the intention. But the thing is, it's like you've got, you know, this you know, you legalize abortion, you can now, you know, kill fetuses, kill babies in the womb. And then you promote the sexual revolution that tells basically men and women to go out and be promiscuous. So to me, the way I look at it is, the only way, the reason why I link it to promiscuity is because then you have contraception, you have abortion as a way of not facing the consequences of being promiscuous. So I can go out there and have sex as well, and if there's a mistake, if I get a girl pregnant that I didn't mean to get, guess what? I can always tell her, look, listen, go and get an abortion. Or she could turn around and say, I'm going to go and get an abortion because of my body, my choice. And this is why we have 73 million abortions being carried out worldwide today.
Sure. To your one point, yeah, is it impossible to tell? Was, you know, somebody just getting their foot in the door? Was it just the start of the slippery slope? Was the end of the plan, or did it just kind of organically go that way? I googled it real quick. It said the Supreme Court established married couples can use contraceptive in 1965. I was surprised it was that late. I thought it would have been in the late 50s.
Yeah,
and expanded the right in 72 to single people. I mean, we used to have a law in America that you couldn't cohabitate.
Now you can.
Yeah. Well, I think about 10 years ago, I remember on the radio they announced, well, Florida finally repealed its law against cohabitating. So all you people out there who aren't married, of opposite sexes living together, you've been breaking the law the whole time, but you know, everybody stopped enforcing it in the 70s. There's an actual Saturday Night Live skit where these guys play like cops who've been fired because they want to enforce the no cohabitation law. They break into an apartment and they throw the guy out the window or something. You can't be living together. But yeah, I don't know if there's been some master plan from the beginning. Okay, let's, you know, nobody's going to buy this. You know, women can be on the pill and be out running around having sex. So let's start with just married couples. Let's just say it's a medical thing. You know, you've got too many kids already. You're married. It's fine. You know, maybe she's got, I remember something they were saying, you know, the pill can regulate your menstrual cycle. Maybe you have a weird menstrual cycle going. This will help. You know, side effect is you won't get pregnant, but
well, that's a lie.
And then was the whole plan to just spread it to the whole, you know, society and create promiscuity. It's certainly possible. You know, I don't.
Would you say that was an outcome? Would you say that's would you call today's society more promiscuous?
Oh, absolutely.
So would you say that legalizing prescriptions and legalizing contraception and abortion created a more promiscuous society?
Oh, absolutely.
It's I can't because I can see it clearly because I mean it's so obvious, but for some reason this is even a topic today. I don't understand why people still talk about this when it's obvious.
Cable television helped too. You know, I mean, they used to get upset about Elvis wiggling his hips. You know, remember in Forrest Gump when Sally Fields puts her hands over the little kid's eyes when they go by the TV store and Elvis wiggling his hips. Like what they do now. What was that Sam Smith guy or something with guys are peeing on him or something? He's in S&M stuff.
Oh my Lord.
Dude, I got a story for you. So it would have been 1988 or something. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Two Live Crew?
Yes, unfortunately,
from
yes.
the 80s, right? So when I was graduating from high school in 87, somebody put in their first album. Everybody say, hey, we want some.
Yeah.
My homies like to play this game. We call it Amtrak. See, I know the whole thing. But so their next album is Dirty as We Want to Be. And my dad owned low-income apartment buildings. He owned this 9-unit building. And I was home from college, and we had to go change an air conditioner out, right? And it was a 2-bedroom apartment. I think the mother was maybe 30 or something. And she had like a 14-year-old girl, a 12-year-old boy, and like a 4-year-old girl, right? And she worked at the McDonald's right there. And of course, she was on, we call it Section 8, where the government supplements your income or your rent, right? You know, I think she paid like $10 a month for rent, and the government paid the rest. So we're down there. We get the new air conditioner won't fit in the old spot, and it's a concrete building. So we're chiseling out concrete, and they got a tape in the radio, and it's Two Live Crew.
Oh.
And the little 4-year-old girl's like dancing. She's doing the butterfly. There was no twerking back then, but she's doing the butterfly, and the boy's singing along. And I'm like thinking, my dad is going to freak out, but he's just working away. He's just working away. And they have one song called S&M. And it's S&M, bring your sucking friends. Well, my dad's name is Richard. He's old school, goes by Dick. So he hears his name. And he stops, you know, and he's like, what is that? He jumps up. He's like, turn that off. And the little boy jumps up and starts like yelling back at my dad. I'm like, oh my, I'm like 20 years old. I still haven't yelled back at my dad once. And then he calls his sister out. He says, we can't play our music. My dad's like, the cops will arrest you for that. You know, and I'm like, oh, great. But they're like, even the little girl, like she knew all the lyrics, you know, she's like 4 years old. And I'm like, oh, this poor little girl doesn't have a chance. You know, she ain't going to make it past 16 without getting pregnant.
Exactly.
You know, but, and then funny, not long after that, they were out of Miami. The Miami prosecutor actually charged him with obscenity. And of course, this was before the whole record label thing. I don't know if you know Tipper Gore. At some point in the 90s, came out with you had to label records to. I think her niece was came and asked her what masturbating was after hearing Prince's Darling Nikki.
What the?
And so she's like, the adults didn't know any of this was going on, But the Miami prosecutor charged him with obscenity. I remember reading in the paper one time, they said during the trial, the judge, he asked the judge to instruct the jury not to laugh because he was playing the tape for him, like, here's our evidence. And some of the jury was laughing. So it was like, okay, we're pretty much done now. When the jury thinks it's funny.
It's kind of over at that point.
Yeah.
But how do you look as a Christian, right? As a Catholic, this bothers me. From a moral perspective, of course, this really, really bothers me. I don't understand how you atheists, and I'm not saying all of you guys, of course I'm not saying that at all. And I'm sure that there's atheists out there that, it bothers them just as much. But for the most part, how does this not concern you? How does this not?
Like I said, I knew right then. I think we're done. I think we're sliding towards Sodom and Gomorrah. What was Bob Bennett's book? Slouching towards Sodom and Gomorrah. We're more than slouching.
But wouldn't that make you? You know how you've read the Old Testament. You've seen how many times God tells them to follow His laws, and then the Jews go astray, and then God punishes them, or another nation comes in and turns them into slaves and punishes them, and this is all God's doing. And it's like. And then the Jews repent and they go back to God and then they start doing what is right until they mess up again and it's all throughout the Old Testament, right? It's right. Like I'm thinking, okay, the atheists stopped being Catholic, they stopped being Christian, they denied it. It's like now that they are seeing that society is literally going down the drain, isn't it time for the atheists to turn around and say, look, listen, yeah, we kind of messed up a little bit here, guys. Let's go back.
I think you can make that argument without saying, God's going to destroy us. We're destroying ourselves. I think you can make it a good idea argument as opposed to a moral imperative argument demanded by God. The Romans fell for multiple reasons, but one was debauchery. When your upper classes just start lying around having orgies all the time.
Yeah.
And you're taking people out of production. Of course, they also had other problems. They were running out of gold. The Romans kept making their coins smaller and smaller. They became worth less. And they also had an excessive slave problem. They had too many slaves, and the working class couldn't find work because the slaves had taken so much of the work away from them. So, there's all sorts of complexities to economics and whatnot. I think our debt's going to bring us down before our debauchery.
But every atheist, right? Every atheist, let's say, okay, every atheist said, you know what, we might not agree with God or blah, 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 but, the Christian ideology. Isn't the Christian ideology, for example, where sex is restricted to marriage? Wouldn't that be better for society? Wouldn't the Christian moral standard, because I want to get into Islam and I really want to ask how you came to know all this about Islam, but just a quick question. It isn't just as a practical way of looking at things. It's like, okay, listen, we tried liberalism without Christianity. Look where we are right now. We can't even reproduce ourselves no more. Wouldn't it be better to say, okay, look, listen, Christianity offers a better deal, guys. You know what? It would put an end to this degeneracy. It will get our birth rates up, and hope. Isn't that a better way?
I do want to answer your question. I just got to say, I'm going to send you Claire Caw's email. She has a concept of secular Quranism, and that's her argument. She thinks if you could get the whole world to get on board with Quranic laws and eliminate feminism, she's got some other wacky ideas like one, there'd be A and B schools. And the A schools would be children from marriages, and the B schools would be for bastards. All children born out of wedlock would be put in these other schools.
What the?
She's a little nutty, but she's saying the same concept: is we got to bring God back into things. And she's not a Muslim. She's British. Oh, she's Chinese by way of Malaysia to London. And she sent me her book, Secular Cranism. I have it here somewhere. It's a little paperback. I read it. And she was like, yeah, the atheists will get on board because, you know, the atheists aren't all, you know, I forget her argument for why atheists will be on board. But yeah, if someone needs God to show them what's right and wrong, I'm all for people telling them God tells you not to do this. And if they'll go, oh, okay, then I won't. That's fine. But just like this video we're watching here, you know, if they already don't understand there's men and women, you're probably getting nowhere with them.
And I think this is where liberalism got us, is to the point where we don't even understand. Well, not me, because I follow Christian ideology, but where Western men and women, or you know, people that don't believe in Christianity, no longer understand what men and women are, and I think that's what liberalism got us. So I'm just thinking, why not follow an ideology that at least believes in reality? At least biological reality, that man is a man and is a woman.
Biological reality. Some of the other parts I don't put into reality.
Yes, and I'm not, and this is not a religious argument. This is a biological argument that I'm making here. So I'm not even making a religious argument. I'm not even appealing to, you know, you believing in God, so to speak. But the Christian ideology does reflect reality way more than the woke ideology. So my only thing is, it's like, if you want to save the West, why not adopt an ideology that you're already familiar with, that you've had almost 2,000 years of experience with? Why not adopt that ideology, get the ideology back, and rebuild, you know, the West again, instead of.
Well, I'm still holding on to science and practicality to convince.
And how's that helping us? How's science helping us?
I think we're at a tipping point here. Or at least I hope we are. I think, again, we've done this multi-generational thing from, you know, I mean, what are we on? Are we on fourth or fifth wave feminism? There's been at least 3 waves of feminism. So the early feminists weren't what anybody today would call feminists. They would be like just fairly conservative women who, you know, thought, yeah, if my husband beats me, I should be allowed to get divorced, or, you know, my husband shouldn't be allowed to rape me. I should have the vote, you know. I mean, that was already in place, but, you know, I should have kind of, I don't even know if they argued for equal pay with men back in the day, but probably. But today's feminists are like, men owe me. It's almost like they want reparations, you know. men owe us for the patriarchy of the last 10,000 years. And I'm not really sure what the third, fourth wave feminists really want.
Would you say that I think the third, fourth is just we hate men, and we want to do whatever we want to do, and not be judged for it, and not be held accountable in any way, shape, or form? Do you agree with the patriarchy? Do you think the patriarchy is a good thing, is a wonderful thing, is the best thing that could have possibly happened to women?
Well, I think somebody has to be the head of the family. I agree. You got to have a captain of the ship. I would hope it would be the smarter person in it. I do think women's nature is somewhat submissive. You know, I have a niece in college. I guess they went from brat summer to demure summer last summer ago or something. That a lot of the girls are now like, oh, you know, we got to be more demure. You know, like they're finding out, yeah, guys don't like it when you belch in front of them or whatever. You know,
we don't at all. We don't.
I remember back in the late 80s, early 90s when girls started doing that, like, oh, we're like men. Yeah, that's one of the other things about feminism. rather than getting men to behave better towards women, it got women to be more like men. Now you have female street gangs and just jackass women all over the place. You know,
I think you're almost there. I think I'm surprised you left Catholicism. I'll be honest with you, Mike, because you pretty much agree with what we as Christians agree with. It's ridiculous. The patriarchy, to me, the patriarchy is closest to reality, or is the reason why I agree with the patriarchy is because, first of all, men are stronger than women, and men are going to have the monopoly when it comes to power. Men, it's just, I'm sorry to say it, but the biological reality of us being stronger than them, and you know, for the most part, you know, we're the only ones who can defend them. When you look at all these biological reality, it makes sense for there to be a patriarchy. So to me, truth is that which closest corresponds to reality. And I'm sorry, that closest corresponds to reality. Equality doesn't. So I don't understand why this push for something that goes against reality, that goes against truth. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I really don't.
I mean, a lot of it came out of the nature versus nurture argument, and people think they can change nature. You know, that's why they think there's
yes
genders. That's why they think, you know, oh, there's no such thing as a woman, right? I mean, I get called a nihilist all the time by the Muslims when I say I'm an atheist. I'm like, I'm not a nihilist. I believe in things. Well, do you believe a man and woman? I'm like, of course. Like, I'm not some guy who says there is no reality, there is no truth. You know, obviously there's a truth.
Where is your sorry to interrupt, but where is why Islam, and why did you take such an interest in Islam? Why do that?
I started reading about Islam during the whole, not after 9/11. I thought that was kind of I hope that was a one-off. And then, of course, 7/7 happened, 3/11, and then what was called here the Ground Zero Mosque, at least by the anti-Muslim guys, right? Pamela Geller, Robert Spencer. I don't know who they are. 2011, 2012.
I know Robert Spencer quite well, yeah.
Okay, yeah, they're building a Victory Mosque in the old Burlington Coke factory, you know, a couple blocks from Ground Zero. So I'm like, okay, and Robert Spencer he's big on, I don't know how you say it, I was just called Taqueria or something.
Yeah.
So lying for that, they're just lying for, you know, I looked into that. Well, that's mostly a Shia thing to keep the Sunnis from killing them. That's saying if somebody comes to kill you, you're allowed to lie what your religion is, right? So when the Sunnis were, you know, takfiring and wanting to kill the Shia as apostates, they kind of came up with this, you're allowed to say, no, you're a Sunni. But anyway.
Oh, wow. So that's where that came from.
I think that's where it's mostly used. It may, you know, Muhammad may have told them back when they were in Mecca, if the pagans were going to kill you, you know, you can tell them, no, I'm still a pagan. You know, I haven't converted to Islam yet or something. And it may have filtered all the way through and then mainly was used by the Shia. That's what I read at one point. But so, you know, I figured it was what it was, that there's extremists on both sides and the truth somewhere in the middle. But when I started reading the Quran, you know, I actually got it from CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations. I'm in Florida, and I don't know if you heard of Terry Jones. He was a pastor up in Gainesville. He was going to burn a bunch of Qurans. So CARE came out with this learn, don't burn thing. And, you know, they got somebody to give them like 100,000 Qurans, and they were giving them away for free. So I met this guy, Ramsey Khalik, and he gave it to me. And so I started reading it. It's like the Bible. It's just, you got Jonah and the whales in there. You got the virgin birth. Moses.
What about the verses that you know, that speaks of fighting the Christians and the Jews, kill the polytheists and all of that?
Yeah, so 9:5 is a big one, often quoted when the sacred months are over, lay in ambush for them, kill them wherever you find them. If you watch like Numan Ali Khan, who's kind of considered liberal by some of the Salafi, he's saying, well, so the 8th and the 9th surah, which is where you find most of those verses,
Mm-hmm.
They say the 8th is during the Battle of Badr, B-A-D-R. That's the first major battle. The Muslims, they raid a trade caravan of the pagans, and they justify this because they say the pagans kicked them out of Mecca. So Muhammad goes up to Medina. He kind of unites the tribes up Medina, kind of becomes the chieftain there. There's actually the Charter of Medina, which is a pretty interesting read. It seems like an actually pretty forward document for the 7th century. But so the guys from Mecca, they do trade caravans up to Damascus and back. In fact, that's what Muhammad did when he was 25. He married a 40-year-old widow who had inherited her husband's business of running caravans. So he managed her caravans for her. So the Muslims went out, supposedly 313 men, and they took on 1,000 pagans, and they won.
Is that the hoodoo? What's the name of that battle?
Udu is the next one.
Oh, it's the next one. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's the Battle of the Mound.
Okay.
U-H-U-D, which I guess means mound in Arabic.
Okay.
So the Muslims win the first battle, get a bunch of stuff from the caravans, kill one of the big enemies of Muhammad. I mean, it's not like they killed all the pagans. Like a bunch of them just fled or whatever. But verse 8:12, Lo, thy sustainer said unto the angels, I will strike at their necks and cut off every fingertip.
Yeah.
It's supposedly like a pep talk before the battle. This is Muhammad saying, don't worry, guys, God's with us. Then there's a whole debate of whether or not there was actually angelic intervention in the battle. There's some hadiths where guys said they could see horses of light with men on flying in the air above them, that the angels actually participated in the battle, and that's how they won. But yeah, then the next battle, Muhammad
they must have been paid by Muhammad. Yeah, good. Sorry.
Yeah, well, the hadiths come like 200-300 years after the Quran.
Sorry?
The hadiths aren't written down for like 200-300 years till after the Quran.
But they have the chain of narration, right?
Yeah. They some of them they got ratings of strong, middle, weak.
Yeah. But how reliable not really be?
Yeah. I mean, how reliable can it be that the Quran was memorized by all these guys and then written down? There's several ideas that Ali had his own Quran. Uthman was the third caliphate who codified the Quran. It was after a battle and a bunch of the memorizers got killed. And they're like, well, hang on. We got a parchment over here. We got something written on a deep date leaf over here. We got a bunch of guys who supposedly remembered all these things. Let's write it down, guys. And
do you believe because you're obviously more knowledgeable than I am, do you believe that the Quran was perfectly preserved?
No, I believe it might be preserved from whatever the transcripts are they had. And even people, when they say perfectly preserved, there'll be ones with different accent marks. Yeah. And even I think Uthman added, they call it the sun and the moon letters, because like Arabic that was spoken back then isn't much like Arabic that's spoken today. And even when he was writing it down, Arabic, I think, was in flux. They were adding vowels to their language, right?
Mm.
I mean, a lot of like when you see transliterations of Arabic, like there's an A sound in there where there's no A written, And so I don't know. I don't even care either. That's like one of their big things. It's perfectly preserved. I'm like, okay, well, it's preserved nonsense. It doesn't matter to me.
But do you but did you just start like learning about the Quran because of with the terror attacks, and is that what inspired you to say, you know what, let me learn about this religion and see what the connection?
Exactly. Yeah. We were 10 years after 9/11. Things were still pretty bad, obviously. And you just had both sides arguing, these crazy concepts, Islam is the religion of peace. The religion. I don't even think they say that anymore. Where you come up with it's the religion of peace. They're certainly no more peaceful than the Amish or the Mennonites. I mean, there's pacifist religions out there. These guys, and again, you start reading the history and these battles, and they're all happy about winning battles, and when they lose them, that's all right. That's a test. And then you come to find they were fighting amongst themselves so much. You know, the Battle of Camel, Aisha, Muhammad's widow, attacked Ali, the fourth rightly guided caliph. 3 of the 4 first caliphs were assassinated.
So they were killing each other.
Yeah, I mean, well, Omar, the second caliph, was killed by a slave, a Persian slave, who didn't like his ruling. But Uthman was killed by, they call them Khawarjites at this point. And then Ali apparently didn't look for his killers fast enough to Aisha's liking, so she raised an army and fought Ali, and he beat her and then let her just retire from public life. But who was it? The Atheist Republic, guys? Or was it APUS? Was it the apostate prophet was saying, you know, Aisha, when Muhammad died, Aisha started like telling people like, you know, not quite, she was getting revelations, but she would say like, oh yeah, I remember Muhammad told me this once, you know, like those are hadiths, right? Oh yeah. Muhammad said this once, you know, he's been dead for 5 years, but I just remembered he told me to do this. You know? So, okay, well that was advantageous for you because that's what we knew you wanted done, you know. So,
morally speaking, what would you like if I was to ask you? And I'm not, look, you're an atheist, okay? I know you grew up as a Catholic, but you're an atheist. I'm not asking this question because you might be more sympathetic towards the Christian religion, but morally speaking, okay, even as an atheist, and I'm sure you've got your reservations against the Bible, especially I would assume the Old Testament. Morally speaking, by the way, I accept the Old Testament. I agree with everything that the Old Testament says, and I think it was all necessary. So I'm one of those Christians, and yeah, I'm a Catholic. For those listening, but morally speaking, if you were to make a comparison between Christianity and Islam, what's your, from what you've studied, from what you've learned, from what's your opinion?
I would say they're nearly identical. I'm trying to think of, you don't really hear much about how to treat other religions within Christianity. Like in Christianity, I would say this is the big difference, and maybe my secularism is tainting my view here. Christianity doesn't claim to be a form of governance. It's certainly a moral guidance, you know, a spiritual way to salvation, but it doesn't really give any structures of governance. In Islam, the Muslims all tell me, oh, it's more than a religion. It is a form of government. We have all these laws, right? We have the Sharia. We have how it's supposed to be implemented. You know, you're supposed to have a caliphate, a khalifa. He's allowed to do this. You know, when they take people captive, there's 3 things you can do. You can kill them. Well, men, certainly combatants. I guess if you take women and children, you're not supposed to kill them. But if you've conquered a tribe, you've got their combatant men, you can kill them. You can release them. I guess there's 4 things. You can ransom them. If there's anybody left in their tribe, they'll pay for them. Or you can enslave them.
Sex slaves, right?
Sure. And then the women can be sex slaves. Now, if you go to the Old Testament, obviously, right? Moses and the Midianites, Numbers 31 forward, right? He says, kill all the women and children, save for the girls who haven't known a man, right? So you got to keep the virgins, keep those for the boys, right? I mean, you're taking them as sex slaves, right?
But is that what it says, though?
Well, it seems to be the only reasonable conclusion. There's also
is that because of because I'm secular as well, you know, and I understand we can be perverts because we are so sexually orientated these days. Maybe when he said that, we are looking at it through secular lenses, and we're thinking that The only conclusion is keep the virgins for those reasons, right? But does the Mosaic law allow that? My question is, does the Mosaic law allow that? Because Muslims have brought that argument and said, well, look at what was said here. Does the Mosaic law allow Jews to take sex slaves?
I don't know. I'll Google it right now. And then there's also who is it?
Hassan, I know you're listening, Hassan. I know you're listening. Hassan hates religious debates. He does not like. It's not even a debate; it's just a discussion. We're just having trading our opinions.
Okay, well, Leviticus 25:44 through 46 came up. God tells the Jews, you may also buy male and female slaves from among the nations. You may bequeath them to your sons to inherit as a possession forever. Does this mean slavery is divinely ordained? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so.
But does that mean that you can force them? Like, for example, because we're not talking about what right hands possess. Is that the term? Is that a term?
Sure.
Is that the same concept that's going on in the Bible, in your opinion?
Well, and the Muslims would say you can't force yourself on those whom your right hand possesses either. And then there's some guys who even interpret that as, well, you got to marry them first. Muhammad Assad's translation will throw that in there out of nowhere. Like I've never seen anybody else.
How would you interpret it?
I interpret those your right hand possess to mean your slave, as in your war booty. You know, the Muslims will also say, well, we eliminated a lot of slavery. You can't just capture someone and make them a slave. They have to be prisoners of war, right? Now, there's also a theory that one of the reasons the Arabs didn't proselytize farther into sub-Saharan Africa was to keep a ready supply of slaves there, because you can't enslave a Muslim either. So if you convert them all to Islam, now you can't attack them and make them slaves. But
if you can make them slaves, can't you make them into sexual slaves? For example, look, when it comes to the Jews owning slaves, or buying slaves, to me, I don't. The term slave kind of bothers me a little bit, because I think it's more indentured servitude than actually slavery. I come from Angola. I've seen indentured servitude even in today's age. I've seen it a lot. There's still a lot of slavery around the world. But the thing is, there is also something called indentured servitude. A lot of people don't understand that. There was no system that people could depend on, even the poorest could depend on, in order to survive. So a lot of people, what they would literally do is rent themselves out, and say, you know what, look, listen, can you give me this? And if you just give me some shelter and some water and some food, I'll work for you. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. To me, when I look at these laws in the Old Testament, what I'm seeing is God basically saying, okay, here's how you should treat those people. And I would think that indentured servitude was so huge, because there was no system to support the poor. It was so huge in those times that that you would have had people, for example, selling people, and so on and so forth. And if you're buying someone, right, who is poor, who would not have any way of surviving otherwise, if you're buying them, isn't it the right thing to have a law to teach you how you should treat that person, rather than not how to treat that person, because you can just do whatever you want to them.
Sure. In indentured servitude, I mean, that into America, that's how a lot of the Irish got here, and the poor Europeans. They would get a rich guy to back them with passage to America, and then they would work for him for 7 years. I thought the 7 years came out of the Bible. But that Leviticus we just read said, you may buy your male and female slaves from among the nations. You may bequeath them to your sons to inherit as possessions forever. So that doesn't sound like a contract for.
Is that so bad?
Indentured servitude.
Is that really a bad thing?
Not if you're super poor. Not if you can't feed yourself and you're willing to sell yourself into slavery. Yeah.
That's what I'm really asking, because the thing is, because when you actually take the reality of the situation, and I don't think a lot of people do that. When you take the reality of the situation on board, you're talking about indentured servitude. You're talking about a society who does not have a system to help the poor and the downtrodden and so on.
Right.
When you take the reality of the situation, is it really so bad to say bequeath them to your sons and daughters? You know, at the end of the day, you've provided them with shelter, you provided them with water, you provided them with food, you provided them for a way to survive. Is it really so bad to say bequeath them to, you know, because sometimes I think we judge from today's standards and
Right.
what we have today.
I'm saying that the main part is that as a possession forever would imply that they're not under a time limit contract of indentured servitude, which again I thought was stipulated as 7 years in the Bible. The other thing is in Deuteronomy, where it says if you beat your slave, you know, like to within inches of his life, but he survives the night and then he dies, it's no sin on you.
Yeah.
So when you say, you know, regulating how you treat them, that's the other thing. The Muslims will say we regulate treatment of our slaves much better than the Christians. But Abu Bakr ate the same food and wore the same clothes, and that they're really just, you know, they've been captured, like with the women, right? Well, if you just wiped out the whole tribe, you can't just leave the women and the kids behind, right? They can't grow food and hunt and do all that. So you got to do something with them. And there weren't prisons like today and stuff. So you give them out as war booty to the guys, and they're supposed to treat them nicely. Now, whether or not they're allowed to rape them, you can go, there's a hadith called coitus interruptus, where the guys go and ask Muhammad if they're allowed to pull out while having sex with these women, because I thought they're worried about their ransom, right? Because they think they're eventually going to ransom them back to their own tribe, but you know, nobody pays good money for a woman with a swollen belly back then who's clearly been defiled.
Wow. The reason why I'm asking these questions, it's not. I'm not trying to argue back about my religion and so on and so forth.
Sure.
The reason why I'm asking these questions is because I just find it. There are verses that come earlier. So when I say there are verses, sorry, Genesis says men and women are both created in the image of God, and then you have in, I think it's Deuteronomy, that it says if you sell a person or you profit from them, then you should be put to death. Any man who sells another man and profits from that and profits from you should be killed. So to me, it's like, so I'm trying to do personally, that's as far as the Bible goes, but I want to concentrate on the Quran. And we can, I'm always willing to have these Bible discussions because I'm learning more and more and more. And I'm trying to reconcile that. And I'm trying to find, okay, hold on, how can you have men and women are made in the image of God? And then what you have is, you know, you can if any man who sells another man or profits from the sale and so on and so forth, then those people can be killed. It's like, how do you reconcile that with then these laws that obviously it's about, you know, how to treat a slave and how to keep a slave and so on and so forth? How do you do that? So I'm trying to understand that. This is like one of my projects right now. I'm trying to understand how that all came about, and I'm trying to reconcile the both. So I'm not against your criticism of the Bible in no way, shape, or form, because I do want to have these conversations more. But I really don't think it's the same as it is with Islam. I really don't.
Okay. Well, yeah, and please let me know when you do reconcile it, because I think you've hit the nail on the head why I'm not a Catholic anymore.
Oh, is it because of that?
Self-contradictions, you know, genocidal God or genocidal prophets. You know, this God is just, and then it's like, nah, just wipe them all out.
And you know, and this is and I'm not going to do it now because I think this is.
You said earlier you think it would be the Old Testament. You're right. It's mostly the Old Testament. That's why I'm not a Christian.
And you know, I'm so glad because the thing is, what I'm going to ask is a list of things that that you disagreed with or that led you to atheism, and because I want to be able to answer all these questions, and I want your pushback as well. And I want to have that discussion. I really do, and I do appreciate you for even interacting and wanting to be a part of it, because to me, I'm learning this stuff, and I find it fascinating. It doesn't bother me as far as my faith goes, but I understand that people struggle with this, and you're obviously one of them. And I do want to know what the reasons are, and I want to come up with something that you would be able to say, oh wow, okay, I never thought of this before. So yeah, to get your opinion on that. But which religion would you, and of course I want you to say Catholicism here, but which, because I'm reading the church fathers as well, and I find them fascinating. But which religion would you say is better for the West right now? Though I'm sure you've heard Europe is being taken over by Islam. I'm sure you've heard everything that's been going on as far as Islam, growing in Europe. What religion would you rather see in the West, Islam or Christianity?
Well, sure, Christianity, because like even you said, you're a secularism. Well, we've moved Christianity into the secular realm, right? That it's a God, religion is a personal thing, right? Like I said earlier, there's no governance from Christianity that I see. Now, could we get a Christian ruler who says, we got to bring back the 10 Commandments? Well, other than worship thy God and no alone and no other God, which it's kind of like Muslims with apostates, I guess, or something. But anyway, that's really not enforceable. Again, I do like Jesus supposedly saying, let he who's out sin cast the first stone. The New Testament has some better teachings in it than the Old Testament, certainly. It's kind of like Quran and the Hadiths. I think the Hadiths are worse than the Quran. I still don't like the Quran much, but I would take that like as the New Testament over the entire Bible. But obviously, we have Christian history, and we were built on Judeo-Christian values, as they say.
That's right.
So, yeah, I think it's a much more natural fit, especially still at this time. Atheism getting up there. I think we're about 16% atheists / agnostics, about 18 or 16% of the world, up from 1% in 1900. I don't know who was pulling back then for that, but
would you like to see the world, like the West, become just purely atheist?
It depends on who the atheist is.
That's interesting.
I mean, I would have no problem with the entire entire world no longer believing in God. But if we have rational people who are willing to hash out what the social norms are supposed to be, what we want our morality to be, because obviously you can't then look to God for the morality. Are we?
And how would you like how would you do that? How would you kind of decide, okay, this is what our morality is going to be, all 9 billion atheists in the world? How would you guys come to that agreement?
Yeah, just the marketplace of ideas, and hopefully science and reason and logic. I mean, I think I'm with you on this woke stuff. It's crazy. It's gotten so crazy. Hopefully it's going to get pushed back down. It's hilarious when, I don't know if you ever saw the one video where the Leah Thompson guy went in the swim meet like by a ton, and there's a whole woman behind this guy, and she's like, oh my God, they got a million swimmers. This is horrible. And this young liberal, obviously kid in front of her, turns around and goes, are you a biologist? How do you know what a man is? And she goes,
oh wow.
She goes, well, I'm not a veterinarian either, but I know what a dog is. I was like, what? You seriously? You got to be a biologist now to define a man? We know what men are. This is one of the things I argue with, Muhammad marrying a 9-year-old, and they fire back and say, well, this king married a 7-year-old. I said, yeah, that's because people were stupid back then. They didn't understand human development.
But Jesus is the standard for us. Muhammad is the standard for them.
Right. But Jesus never got married, so, and nor did he ever set a minimum age of marriage, right?
Exactly.
Right. So,
But the thing is, for what he taught, he kind of let us. In a sense, Islam shot themselves in the foot when they said he's the best example for all mankind, because it's like, then in that case, sleeping with a 9-year-old is fine.
Right.
But for Christians, Jesus Christ left us with, if you do it, don't do to others what you want someone to do to you, and so on. He came us with these laws, and we kind of figured out, that we shouldn't do that. And if you do that, that is wrong. I mean, I think if you look at the West, the entire history, right now, you can't be, she has to be 16 or 18 in some countries and so on. We didn't arrive at this point for no reason. I think it was to do with the Christian morality that pushed us to get to this point.
well, see, I would put that more on science.
Science.
Science, yes, science, and statistical data collection. I think it's Massachusetts. It might still be on the books. With parental approval, as young as 12 can be married.
So would you, in that case, when we look at scientists, a lot of them were Christians. I mean, Francis Bacon, for example, he was responsible for the scientific method, and a lot of these scientists grew out of the Christian era. Would you then attribute that to Christianity?
Well, FYI, the Muslims claim they came up with the scientific method. But no, I wouldn't attribute it to his Christian belief. I would attribute it to his thirst for knowledge and the science. Obviously Christianity has sought knowledge monks would, who was it? Mendel, right? Wasn't he kind of the
Mendel? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Catholic,
recessive and dominant genes, crossbreeding flowers and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still use Mendel squares or not. But the Muslims had a golden age of knowledge too. While the Europeans were in their dark age and stuff. But when we look at it historically, we know that the West, scientifically, they outperformed and outgrew everyone else in the world, and the Muslims kind of stayed stagnant. They didn't really, scientifically, they didn't grow that much in the last 2,000 years. Well, they did from, I don't know, 1100 to 1300, I think, is considered their golden age.
The golden age, right? But who's going to count that compared to,
compared to the Renaissance and the Enlightenment?
I would say even before that. Isaac Newton. I would say all of these guys were Christians. But the thing is, it grew in the West. It developed in the West. It flourished in the West. It did not flourish where the Muslims live.
Right. Well, the Muslims are credited with algebra. In fact, the word is Arabic. Some of it comes out of their inheritance law. The males have the portion of 2 females, and then 1/6 to this person and 1/8 to that person, or blah, blah, blah. And the concept of 0 came from the Hindus by way of the Arabs. That's why the numbers we use, we call Arabic numbers. Those are really Hindu numbers, but they were brought to Europe by the Arabs. They claim the Mayans came up with the concept of 0 simultaneously as the Hindus. But
but would you agree that science flourished more in the West than it did in the Muslim world and the Asian world?
I think the Europeans, with the Romans and the Greeks, had some very good ideas. Obviously, we had the plague that really put a kibosh on some developmental stuff. A lot of knowledge around other parts of the world was advanced, while the Europeans were stymied or stagnant. And then a lot of it came back, and then the Europeans again started to advance their science, and just like science today, I mean, it's growing exponentially so fast. With once computers came in, once you hit certain concepts, then things start to snowball. I think once, like you say, Sir Isaac Newton comes up with some physics stuff. I don't know if you know this. I think there was I forget who the king was, but it was during the time of Sir Isaac Newton. The British had the huge navy and stuff. And there were these rocks off the coast of England that they kept running ships into because the maps weren't that great and whatnot. And so he did it was like a 10,000 pound prize for anyone who could come up with the best navigation system. They're out there with those sextant things, and you got to try to time your knots and do all these calculations and stuff. And I forget what Sir Isaac Newton. Oh, he was on the panel to judge what would be the best thing. One guy's idea was to get a bunch of ships and anchor them all the way around the globe, like make little islands, and then shoot rockets off every hour or something, so people could see those and go around them. But anyways, that's when they came up with timing. How you go by how many minutes and all that. I still don't know how they navigate by that, but
Oh wow.
A clockmaker, he had to make this clock. You can't use a cuckoo clock or a grandfather clock with a pendulum on it on a ship, and he came up with like a gyroscopic clock or something, and they sent it all the way to Jamaica, and it only was off by like 2 minutes or something. And that's how they came up with longitude and latitude and going by your minutes and all that stuff to navigate. And then the king didn't pay him.
Yeah. I personally reckon that I don't reckon, sorry. That's what happened. The biggest technological advancement happened in Europe. The biggest scientific discoveries happened in Europe, in the West. And I think that I personally attribute that, of course, this is up for debate, but I personally attribute that to the Christian ideology. And there's a reason why that did not develop elsewhere and develop primarily in the West. But just go. That's my personal belief, anyway. And me and anyone else who's listening can have a discussion about that, of course. But just going back to the whole atheism thing, because I'm looking at what atheism. You mentioned Renaissance, the period of Enlightenment, and I would say those two, periods in history is kind of what kind of eliminated Christianity or got rid of Christianity in Europe. And kind of ushered in this new, these new liberal ideologies. And when I look at the results of it, when I look at the consequences of it, I'm like, wow, we got to the position where women don't even know what man is no more, and what man they don't know what man is. Is this the product of reason, and is this the product of okay, let's remove God and we're only going to rely on science and reason and so on? And is this it? Is this what we got out of it?
Well, yeah, I think Darwin was probably the tip of the spear of science. I forget who was it, Nietzsche, who said science hasn't disproven God, just made him unnecessary.
Yeah, Nietzsche, yeah.
But yeah, Nietzsche was an atheist, I think, or certainly didn't like God. Didn't like the Russians either. But so yeah, I mean, maybe the scientific advancement was not a good thing.
No, I don't think the scientific advancement contradicted anything. I think it was the writers of the Enlightenment period. A lot of them had a lot to say, and a lot of what they said fed into the problem. They created this idea of it's all about your happiness. It's all about this individualistic culture, this individualism ideology. It's all about your happiness and all of that. We hate Christianity, so there's a propaganda that attacked Christianity and forced people to have a more individualistic sort of mindset. And I think that individualistic mindset kind of created the situation that we're in right now. Now everyone thinks it's about me and my happiness, and I have to impose that on everyone else, which is definitely not the Christian way of viewing the world. And when I look at that way of viewing the world, I'm like, no wonder why we have the problems that we currently have in society. No wonder why science is literally out the window. You've got professors. What is a woman? You yourself mentioned it. What is a woman? Matt Walsh just went around and he spoke to professors in universities. And he asked them a simple question and they couldn't answer it. And I'm saying, hold on, these are the people that champion science and reason, and they and they attack Christianity for lack of it, which I don't believe at all. I just believe that's atheist propaganda. But it's like you champion science and reason, you don't know what a woman is. This is crazy to me.
Yeah, I was really surprised when I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson being interviewed by somebody, and he's like, well, it's not like what we thought. Today if I want to wear makeup, I'm a girl, and tomorrow I'm not. Or something. It's like, what are you talking about? And then I think a bunch of people push back, and I'm like, how do you equate makeup with girls to begin with? That's just a social construct. It has got nothing to do with anything. But or today I'm going to wear my hair long and paint my nails and wear makeup. Like, wait a second, this guy's a physicist. He doesn't know what a girl is. Now maybe I'm starting to doubt my whole science thing.
But the thing is, and this is what I'm saying about science. Somehow makes the human being behave in a reasonable, or makes the human being sort of think of reason and truth and so on and so forth. But that's not what really ends up happening, because these are scientists. I mean, Neil deGrasse is a great scientist, and look at what he is saying, and look at what these professors in universities are saying, and it's like, and I'm not saying that they don't have the scientific knowledge. They do. I mean, they understand biology. They know what a man is and a woman is, and yet they will deny the scientific reality, and they will go with the woke ideology, or they will go with, and I find that fascinating, because if science is supposed to teach us reason and truth, then why they don't turn around and say, look, this is bullshit. A woman cannot be a man and a man cannot be a woman. Why can't they just turn around and say that? If science is what's going to lead us to that point, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. I think the thing is, they've pushed the terminology to a weird point. Again, this goes back to the whole gender thing, right? I do think there is such thing as gender dysphoria. I believe that too. Yeah. I don't think most males would just want to become a woman. I think there's obviously an innate attraction among homosexuals. I don't think anybody in society would be like, oh, I think I want to be gay, especially, 100 years ago. They throw you in prison, they kill you for it. I don't know. Have you ever heard of body identity integrity disorder, BIID?
Sounds familiar.
These are guys who want to be amputees.
Oh my Lord.
Some of them have like blown their legs off with a shotgun. One guy got his van and put dried ice in it and stood in it for like 12 hours, like in the parking lot of the hospital, and then called and said, hey, come get me. Because he'd go around to doctors and say, hey, doc, my legs shouldn't be here, amputate them. And the doctors, at least so far, I think the doctors are like going, yeah, we're not going to do that, buddy.
So who do they subscribe to when they come up with this? Let me blow my own leg off. What are they thinking in their heads? What ideology do they belong to? Who are these people? They cannot be Christians, because Christianity is against that. But right. Why? Who are these people?
Well, that's why I brought it up. They're saying it's akin to gender dysphoria. Right, that there's something wrong in your brain where you're a male, but you think you should be a female. They think there's some part of these people's brain that doesn't recognize their own left hand or left arm. And
okay, what if they're lying?
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously crazy at something. Something's wrong in their head, right? But they've now identified it. And I think it's been, I forget when I heard about it, like 10 years ago. There was a documentary called Whole, WHOLE. You can see the trailer of it. And the guy's like in a wheelchair. He's got like one arm left. He's like cut both his legs and one of his arms off or something. And he's like, I'm so happy now.
Oh
like,
my God.
Every day was like torture having my legs and my arm.
Oh wow. No, he didn't. No.
It's been years since I saw it, but you can Google it. It's crazy. I mean, literally crazy.
That is insanity.
So,
it's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. That is crazy. There's an actual video?
Yeah, there's a movie. It's called Whole. There's a trailer to it.
Before we finish,
and I'm not really sure why all this is among white guys, but it always seems like white industrial nations come up with this stuff.
I think I know why. I think because a lot of these ideologies are coming from the West, and the West is mainly white. And these liberal ideologies, I hate to say it, they're mainly coming from the West, and white people are the majority. So therefore, white people, it looks as if, but the thing is, if you go back 60 years, 100 years, a white man would never say the type of nonsense that we're hearing today. They just wouldn't say it. So liberalism to me is a curse. To me, it's more dangerous than, to me, it's what facilitates Islam, is what paves the way for Islam to do what it does in the West. Liberalism is the real issue. That's my opinion. But before we finish, I have to go, unfortunately. I want to know, okay, you said you left Catholic religion because of the Old Testament. And I really want to, I want to know everything about it, put it that way. And I was wondering if you're willing to do, like, a quick show, an hour and a half or so, and then you can tell me what you think of the Catholic Church, and why you left the Catholic. I know you said the Old Testament was a big problem for you. Just want to know whether you went, asked other Catholics, for an explanation and so on and so forth. You seeked help, put it that way. When did it happen? How old were you? How did it happen and so on. I just want to pick your brains on that, because I am Catholic. I advocate for the Catholic religion. I think the world would be a better place if everyone was Catholic. That's my belief anyway. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we can do that. Like I said, I was just, when you emailed me, I was booking some hotels in Germany. I got my mom's 90th birthday party coming up. I'm going to Germany for 2 weeks.
Ooh, enjoy.
So can we push it back to like June?
Yes, absolutely. Not a problem.
I'll put together a list of contradictions. You gave me some ones to look at already there. Genesis verse beating your slave to death, and you can do some research and explain to me why I'm wrong on these being contradictions.
Oh yes, absolutely. That would be fantastic. And Germany, eh? Oh wow. Okay. I hope you enjoy it. When you do go to Germany, if you don't mind, when you do get the chance. By the way, every time we have a live, please join in and offer your opinion and so on and so forth. We look, as you can see, there's a Muslim there, there's a pro-black person there, there's a Catholic here. Oh, I believe in talking to everyone with different views and so on. The main thing is we respect each other, we listen to each other, and we carry on. And I invite everyone, atheists, you name it, all right, whatever you believe in. That's how I like to do things. So yeah, so hopefully, oh, you sent me something, Mike. YouTube. Okay. What's this link for, Mike?
The whole trailer.
Oh, okay.
That guy's only missing one leg though, but he's out of Orlando, Florida, of course. All the nuts roll south to Florida here. But
hold on, let me just copy it and save it here. And yeah, and thanks for joining. But yeah, feel is it all right for you to join? I mean, of course, if you're free. If you're not, it's absolutely fine.
Sure.
So
sure.
Whenever you can, if we're having a live, jump in and just give me your opinion. give your opinion on anything, and you don't have to stay for the duration of the show or anything like that.
Understood.
You
I'll only intention myself to you for 1 hour at most.
You can stay for as long as you want, and we encourage everyone to be themselves. But thank you for joining, Mike. I really appreciate that.
No problem. And I'll send you an email to Claire Caw's channel as well. The second
please, yes, please.
You gotta check her out. She's a little nutty, but she's got a plan.
I want to read the entire thing. I appreciate that. And I just want to thank everyone that's been watching the channel and will watch this live. Appreciate you, and appreciate Mike for coming. Appreciate John JM and Hassan as well, and everyone that's interacted, including AS and Rashid as well. Peace, everyone.